Welcome back to Sweet Science Boxing and MMA here in Hawthorne, California. I assure you this is not the Against the Ropes podcast, but we do have the crew from Against the Ropes, also the commentary team for All-Star Boxing, a local promotion here. And I guess I should just work my way down the line. On the end, we have Christian. Do you go by Christian or is it
Christian Mosqueda? We're starting to go by Simos now, just since we have two Christians.
You have two Christians?
Yeah.
So you're Simo.
Simos, yeah.
Simos. Okay, I got to make sure that I get that right. Simos and Christian.
Rodriguez, yeah.
Yeah, but is there a nickname for you, or is he just making that up?
What was the name?
C-Rod?
Yeah.
It's already taken, I'm sorry.
It's already taken? C-Rod. Okay. And then, of course, down here we have Giovanni, or do you go by Gio?
Gio.
Giovanni's
too long.
We got Giovanni's too long. So we got Gio down here on the end. So the Against the Ropes podcast crew, thank you guys for being on today.
Thank you for having us.
I know you guys took this last minute and everything like this, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, well, you seen what happened with Mars, right? So we had to.
Oh man.
The show.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah. I actually there were two very good cards that evening. So there was the one in Fantasy Springs, which I frequent for events, and also the one here. And I won't lie, I attended the one here, or I got the credential for the one here. At the time, though, I thought Mares was going to be in the main event. But it was still very good, although I will say it was freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
I was freezing, man. Were you there, too?
No,
you weren't at that one? It was so cold, man.
This is at the Dignity Center now. Like now it's like all these names.
It's the Home Depot Center.
Yeah, it's still the Home Depot Center to us, for sure. But thank you guys very much for being down here. What's going on? I saw you guys just had a show, actually.
Yes, sir. Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday at 7.
And you guys just dropped it on YouTube in the last couple days, right?
Yeah, usually Gio gets the editing done, and usually it comes out Friday. Sometime Friday.
So you're the editor.
Yeah.
You're the editor. Sir. So do you each have roles? I know during the opening you guys all kind of show your roles. I think you're listed as like the media assistant or like the media specialist.
I mean, it just looks cool, but
it just looks cool. Okay. And then you, Christian Rodriguez, because I can't remember. I know you're Simos down there on the end. Christian Rodriguez, you are listed as the boxing analyst.
Yes.
He's like the stats guy. He knows like all the stats that a lot of people just,
all
usually,
the stats?
Yeah.
You're the statistician.
Yeah.
Okay.
Analytics.
Cool.
Yeah.
Analytics, data and analytics we have over here. And then on the very end, you are, what's your role, I guess, in the podcast? You're the control man.
all of the above.
Everything.
You're the wheel man.
A little bit of
the hat trick.
Yeah.
If this were the Matrix, you're like, what's that guy? Cypher or something. No.
Morpheus?
Morpheus? No, the other guy. I forget.
Talking about Neo?
No. I can't remember his name. The guy who operates Tank. Right? Isn't Tank the guy who operates the controls? Yeah, he takes the calls and stuff like that. Yeah, you guys know what's up. Man, so there's a lot of fights to talk about. You guys got into a lot of different things on your podcast that happened in the last week. Obviously, every week we go, "What's up, doll?" This is Boxeo. Boxeo's. I'm gonna call you Boxeo no matter how many times you change your name, bro. I still know it's you. Happy Sunday. I appreciate you. But I know you guys were getting into a lot of different stuff that's happened recently on your podcast. Obviously, we had a few fights this weekend also. We had some fights on Saturday, a couple PBC cards. We had a Golden Boy DAZN card in Tijuana. And if you guys follow all the Facebook stuff, there's a few other cards that you could get on live stream and things like that. Did you guys check any of those out?
Yeah, so I didn't see a whole lot of the fights, but I always try to get caught up on what happened, the highlights. And so the Brandon Rios and the Humberto Soto was one of the fights where I expected, Rios to come up and really show, his, that punching power. And I was very surprised that Humberto Soto at 38 years of age was able to do those things.
I thought so too. But that's so you mentioned you actually were preoccupied.
Yeah.
Right. So you were doing commentary for a different sport.
Yeah, for soccer, for my cousin who made it to the CIF finals in the Southern Section Division 2. Finals, and so I was doing just Spanish commentary. So
Cabrillo High School.
Yeah.
Word.
High School.
Give him a shout out. What's your cousin's name?
Eduardo Mosqueda.
Eduardo Mosqueda. Yeah. Shout out, man. Shout out to Eduardo. So the CIF finals, how'd they do?
CIF finals, they fell 1-0 off of PK, which is always like, just bittersweet to lose that way. But I just told him, keep your head up. You're in the States, so just have short memory, and just think of the next games.
What grade is he?
He's a junior, barely.
He's a junior. All right. He
has
next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still got next year.
Right on. So you guys got another shot at it. So
yeah.
You'll get to do a couple more games.
Yeah. A couple more games.
So how'd you guys get into the commentary business? So who started that? You started that?
So yeah,
CMOS?
Yeah. That's how I started. So I was working.
You guys are sticking to that.
CMOS? Oh man, I'll remember it. Look,
Yeah,
I got a guy on here who tried to change his name on me 15 times already, and he's still box sale. You're gonna be you're gonna be CMOS for the rest of the.
Yeah, it's like it's a Home Depot. Yeah, you can't change it. Yeah. So the way I got started into commentary, I was working on my bachelor's degree in journalism, and one of my professors knows that I'm into boxing, and so he got me an internship doing camera work for James at All Star Boxing, and I noticed, I was like, I see that you don't have a commentary or Spanish commentary. Do you want me to help you with that? Like, I would love to do it. And he's like, yeah, man, it's going to be good promotion, good to connect with the people. So I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So that's how I got started on that. And
then these guys are friends of yours who also watch boxing. So you brought the team together.
Exactly. I was like, I would tell them, like, we already do this every Saturday when we watch the fights together. We're always talking about it. It's going to be kind of like second nature. Let's just do it. And so that's how we came to be. That's how we got started. And it's funny because at first it was me and Gio that would start doing it, and it was good stuff. Okay. But it's always nice having, another piece, because it brings a whole nother dimension, a whole nother, aspect to the game.
So, Gio, you weren't feeling the band. You were like, no, we need a new member. You got to get another lead singer up here and stuff like that.
I was just trusting the process.
You were just trusting the process?
Yeah. Christian said, let's bring another guy in. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Stephen McCowan, what's up, brother? Hey, I have your shirt, and it's on its way. Not really. I mean, I just got it yesterday, so I have to ship it on Monday. So, Stephen McCowan. For those of you who don't know, I lost a bet that I covered for someone on here, so I'm going to try not to cover bets for my guests anymore.
Wow.
I saw that last week.
It was a ridiculous bet.
What was the bet?
Oh, man. So, all right, I'll go into it one more time, because I'm sure Stephen loves hearing this story, so I'll share it one more time. Stephen bet on a writer for Inside the Ropes, a gentleman by the name of Sun Ha Kim, who's been on the show a couple times, had made a prediction that Caleb Plant would win the Uzcategui fight, right? Now, in his defense, he did win. He did like that was his prediction, was that he would win. And I had favored Uzcategui in that fight. So in all fairness, I completely underestimated Caleb Plant's capabilities, and he ran away with that fight until he kind of got gassed in like the 7th or 8th, right? But the bet, as I recall it, was a guaranteed 119, 110 scorecard in favor of Caleb Plant. That was the bet. And I lost it the moment he was knocked down. Uzcategui was knocked down in the first round, because after that, well, it's not going to be 119, 110. It's going to be, so it was like instantly a lost bet. And I didn't even think that Caleb Plant was going to win that fight. So I was covering the bet on his behalf because, I'm a gracious host. I appreciate you guys, I appreciate you guys coming down. Yeah. So I covered the bet. Anyways, I lost a T-shirt.
Okay.
Yeah, so
nice
it's on the way, man. I'm shipping it.
Talking about Uzcategui, do you guys remember when one of the Dirrell uncle went into the ring and that was Uzcategui? Yeah, I forgot about that.
He was also the one who, like, hours before the fight was, like, urinating blood and said that, do you guys remember that on Showtime? There was a big thing where they had to delay the bout. He was urinating blood, and then he said, this happens to me all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was like, no, it's fine. This happens to me all the time. And the doctors weren't sure if they did a bunch of checks. They had to send it to a lab before they would let him fight that evening, which I agree they should.
They should,
they absolutely should. It's about the health of the fighter. But he was very nonchalant about it. Like, he was like, that happens
all the time.
It's normal.
Yeah, that's normal.
That's crazy.
But they let him fight.
I'm like, what's going on in TJ, man?
Speaking of TJ, man, there was some action down there this weekend.
Yeah.
So I do want to give a shout out to Christina Castle, so a woman they call $1 Million Beast, who is a former guest on this show. Christina Castle had her pro debut this weekend. She fought to a draw. It was a tough fight, a learning experience. Christina, we very much look forward to seeing you in the ring again. Now, that was not on the DAZN card. That was separate. But yeah, I've had a couple people look at these guys are getting after Rios already, saying Bam Bam has to be officially done. So we may as well get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah.
Okay. So do I think Bam Bam has to be officially done? Well, why don't you guys start? Did you watch the highlights?
I saw the highlights, and I've seen Rios get boxed by better opposition, better opponents, more named, more
at least bigger guys. La Zorrita has never been like a physically big fighter.
Yeah. And man, Yeah, Rios just didn't look like himself, and Zorita just looked. He looked fast.
Yeah,
he looked fast.
To be fair, this fight was contracted at 152.
Yeah.
So I mean, these gentlemen, when they campaigned for their titles, were in or around 140, and then the later part of their career at 147. So this is the first time that they've been up that high. I would say that the first 6 rounds to me, you guys let me know. Boxeo, Steven, you guys let me know if you saw the highlights. The first 6 rounds looked like this could be like a fight of the year type fight. Like it was looking good.
It was looking good.
It was turning into a good scrap. I thought it was good. What's up, Brian Dominguez? And then
trouble.
Oh no, really? Really? Are you gonna start something on here?
He's from Against the Ropes.
Yeah, he's loyal.
Okay,
that's our boy.
I didn't know. Shout out to Brian. Appreciate you. But and then there were 6 rounds where these two gentlemen were just trying their best not to faint.
Yeah.
From exhaustion. It reminds me. Did you ever see when Kimbo Slice fought that guy like Dada 5000 or whatever?
And he got. Yeah.
And I'm not going to say too much about it because he actually did have a serious condition problem after that fight and things like that.
Kimbo Slice.
Yeah, and so and Dada too, I think, had to go to the hospital with like a heart attack essentially during that fight. But these two men were just gassed.
Yeah.
They were just trying to find a way to make it. And the truth is Soto is entirely too crafty.
Yeah.
You know, so like it was like he was just leaning against the ropes and using head movement and bending at the waist and doing things like that to disrupt the rhythm of Rios. Rios wasn't able to land anything hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And was just putting flashy punch. It was almost like watching forgive this comparison already, but it's almost like watching Ray Leonard, to the sense where like, hey, here's what I'm going to do. At the end of the round, as soon as I hear the clap, I'm going to throw the flashiest combination that I can throw that has like 15 punches in it, and it's going to be super fast and uppercuts and all these different things just to steal a round. And the rest of the round, I'm going to try not to get killed, right? And it worked like every single round. Like Robert Garcia is literally yelling at Bam Bam in between rounds, stop letting him do that. He's stealing rounds from you. And he was, only Bam Bam wasn't stopping him in any way. So it's like, what can you do?
Now, Paulie was telling DeGale kind of the same thing, right? Did you see that fight?
Yes, I did. I watched Paulie and DeGale as well. So I think in that one, there is one thing actually before I get on to DeGale. 119. So 1 scorecard at 119, 2 scorecards at 118 for Soto, in favor of Soto in the Rios fight. You guys let me know on the chat if you thought, like, I thought it was a bit more competitive than that. I don't know that Brandon Rios lost every round but one. Like, you could make a case for him. It's essentially, I guess, a pick 'em in the sense that in many, many rounds you're looking at volume from Brandon Rios versus effectiveness from Soto, right? So you got a guy throwing a ton of punches versus a guy who's landing a couple clean combinations every round. And I'm surprised that there wasn't one judge, just one, who was like, I prefer the volume. You know what I mean? Like, I'll give you a couple rounds in there.
But you know what's funny about Brandon Rios? He's the only guy that I see, like, if you give him an uppercut, he'll laugh at it.
Yeah, that's true.
It was and there was a couple in there.
He laughs at virtually all hard shots. But I mean, it's his version of the head shake, right?
Yeah.
It's his version of the head shake. All the guys do it. They get the shot, and the first thing they do is shake their head. No, right? So 8-4 Soto for Boxeo. Yeah, like, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I think 8-4 for Soto is cool. It definitely didn't need to be a 12-round fight.
It should not.
It wasn't even a title fight.
It
should have been a 10-round fight.
That definitely didn't need to be a 12-round fight. They probably could have made it 8 rounds. It would have been entertaining.
Yeah, 8. Yeah, exactly.
But those are the type of fights that you'll watch outside the border, right? Like that type of style. You go down south, like those are the type of fights you expect.
Yeah, but you're just saying like they should have had it at 8 or 10 just to keep, these guys are not.
That I do.
Shape.
But I'm just talking about the style. The style, like that's what happens in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to get.
And in Mexico, the cards are stacked. You go on BoxRec, they have like you need 2 pages to see all those fights.
Let's see. Like,
you don't have the chickens fighting.
Well, I was surprised. Like, if I go to Brandon Rios on here, so here's the card.
Yeah.
Or no, here's Brandon. Let me look at the card.
That picture for sure had to be taken like in year 2006.
Yeah. Right? Definitely. He's looking a little bit more youthful there than before. So here's the card. So these are all the fights, but they had so many swing bouts. It was almost like that PBC bout that we checked out the other week.
Yeah.
How many swing bouts were on that? There was like 8 or 9.
There was 8 after the Santa Cruz.
Yeah, exactly.
Santa Cruz, and there was 3 before. Yeah.
Yeah. So like this was the full card, but there were a number of these fights that didn't actually show up on DAZN, unfortunately. Like, for instance, former guest of ours, Sinisa Estrada, fought on that card, and she won by all accounts, looking at her Instagram and her Cutman's Instagram. So shout out to Sinisa Superbad. She did not get televised on DAZN. They put in another woman's bout instead. So they had a bunch of swing going on. All right. So you were talking about this one, Gio. Chris Eubank, James DeGale, Joe Joyce, and Bermain Stavern.
Yep.
Did you watch Joe Joyce too? Yeah, so did I.
That was kind of hard to watch. Yeah. Both guys looked gassed out after like the second round.
Bermain Stavern was 273 pounds.
Yeah. Right away, you knew that he wasn't. He just came for
I thought it was going to end in that second round when Joyce hurt him. But he did a good job at surviving Stavern.
You know why that bothers me, though? Because did you guys hear all the quotes he had about the imposter who was in the ring against, so he like goes out and is like, oh, no, I apologize to my fans for the imposter that showed up for Deontay Wilder. That was the imposter. And then he shows up at 273 and it didn't even need to go as many rounds as it went. His corner could have stopped it before that if they wanted to. He's just getting pummeled. Yeah. Like, there's no point to it.
You know what's funny about Joe Joyce? If you watch their fight, and if you could change the color into black and white, you'll think that he's like one of those characters like back in 1980, like the way he fights.
He was doing well with combinations. I think it's easy, though. I don't want to say easy, but I do want to say that your combinations will look better against an opponent like Stavern who's out of shape and not moving.
And not punching back.
And not punching back. Right, so that's not to say it's easy. I'm sure he works hard. He's a dedicated individual. He wouldn't compete at this level if not. Yeah, but it definitely looks better. What's that?
Silver medalist.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so he's a talented guy, but I think a lot of that is, in this case, the opponent who's in front of him. Yeah, it's kind of like Canelo Alvarez versus Rocky Fielding or whoever Ryan Garcia fought on that card. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like some of it is them, and they put in a lot of work and dedication, but some of it is those guys who they're competing against.
It's good matchmaking.
But
if you want to call it that,
even then, like, I didn't see any head movement by Joe Joyce. He still got caught by some punches. Yeah, he did. Yeah. I mean, Stavern was just swinging wildly at times, and he was still catching him. So
there was no compactness in Stavern's shots at all. They were all very wide, kind of looping shots. You know what I mean?
But that's a good question. But I think, honestly, Tyson Fury has probably the best head movement from all heavyweights.
Tyson Fury has good head movement for a lot of weight classes, not just the heavyweight.
Not just the heavyweights,
No, homeboy's talented.
Speed, slickness that a lot of the, some of the fighters in the lower weight divisions don't have.
I think what it shows is, like, if you look at the punches landed on Tyson Fury, that's where that manifests itself a lot. Like, you look, I think Vladimir Klitschko averaged 6 punches a round landed. Yeah. Right? Like, that's madness. 6 punches a round. No wonder that fight was so, like... People, for lack of a better term, I've heard people refer to it as boring.
Yeah. Even the fight against Deontay wasn't landing many punches. I don't know if anybody has the stats
he was also down there. He was also down at like 4.5, 5 punches around or something like that. So they're both generally speaking. Heavyweights averaged less than I think 9 punches around against Tyson Fury landing. Right. So the dude is slick. Fury is a good boxer, period. I can't disagree with you. I'm done sort of counting him out. You know what I mean? I've been critical, not that I dislike Tyson Fury as a performer, but obviously at a certain point, myself and I think many people looked and said, this is not realistic, right? Like you've been through a lot. Your body has changed. It's not realistic for you to come back and compete at this level. Yeah. And I was very wrong. What can I say? I was just wrong. You know what I mean?
Who did you have for that fight? For just curious, for Tyson and Wilder. Who's your pick before?
I picked Deontay Wilder, and I actually made several statements on this, and including I think I posted one on Facebook, a written reason why. But essentially, what I said was Deontay Wilder. I had no expectation that he would outbox Tyson Fury in any match. So I think. When people say, for instance, Deontay Wilder was exposed, I think that's silly because none of us thought he was going to outbox Tyson Fury, did we? It's not exposed, right? He does what he did, right? Yeah. Like he's not exposed. Nobody thought he was going to outbox Tyson Fury, right? So I had no expectation that he could outbox him. The only question is, can you avoid the punch for 12 rounds? Because he carries the power through all 12 rounds. Yeah. Can you avoid the punch for 12 rounds? And I thought someone in Tyson Fury's condition who keeps his hands down very frequently, likes to use head movement without guard blocking, you know what I mean, things like that. That he couldn't do it, that he couldn't avoid the punch for 12 rounds. No. And in some ways, I was right. He couldn't. He got caught twice.
Yeah.
And in order for him to stay in that fight, particularly in the 12th round, he looked like he was out cold, right? Yeah. Like he had to show something that I didn't know that he had personally. Like,
but what's crazy is that even when Fury was knocked down, he was able to make it into like those 9-9 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was like, he got up in that last round and made it very competitive for the second half of the round after essentially being out cold. So when I looked at that fight, I picked Deontay because I said if it goes the distance, then Tyson Fury wins, right? But at the same time, I don't think he can avoid the power shot for that long. And that's really the only question. It's the same thing with Luis Ortiz. Those scorecards were not correct. Luis Ortiz was winning that fight.
He was winning that fight.
He was winning that fight.
He was winning.
The scorecards were not correct. Luis Ortiz was winning. He maybe lost 2 rounds, which are the rounds where he got knocked down, right? And so you look at that fight, he takes the shot, right? He goes down. Was Deontay Wilder exposed if Luis Ortiz outboxed him over 12 rounds? Like, no. Did anybody expect him to, like, he's not exposed. Like, so, yeah.
I think maybe it was, like, the fact that it took him really, like, 12 rounds to really
catch him. Yeah.
Hurt Tyson Fury, right? Because even in the 9th round, I believe it was, Fury got up and boxed well the remaining remainder of that round.
That's true.
It's not like he was, like you said, like, really hurt. He was still in his senses.
He probably won that round.
Yeah, and usually when Wilder connects, he really hurts the guy and gets him out. Like,
so why did you end up having Wilder winning that fight before?
Before the fight happened? That's why. Because I basically didn't think that a person in the condition that Fury was in, coming back, that he would be able to avoid the power punch, because it's just the one. That's all it needs, right? He wouldn't be able to avoid the power punch for 12 rounds. And he took it twice. He took it like a champion, like better than I've ever seen anyone take any shot, right? Like you look at it and you're like, okay, no, that's, I had an argument last week. Someone popped on, and I said, hey, if you want to argue that 9 out of 10 referees would have waived it the second he hit the deck, you might be right.
You might be right, yeah.
A lot of referees might have said, I think Jack Reese made the right decision, right? And I also think that you can prove to yourself through slowing down YouTube footage that he beats the count just fine. Yeah. It's not a long count, right?
He beat the count.
Yeah, he beat the count. You were
when
doing
he was against the ropes.
He beat the count. He beat the count.
And I actually ran into Jack Reese because he was the referee for the HBO's last event.
Yeah.
And I told him, like, hey, man, you did a great job. Like, fuck whatever everybody's saying and stuff like that. And he handshaked me and he said, yeah, thank you for saying that, because a lot of people are, like, giving me on that. And, like, a lot of people who say, like, especially in Wilder's camp, the seconds lasted too long. But I will say it did feel long when I was at Staples Center watching the fight.
Yeah, I was
there. I'm like, whoa.
I was at Staples too. I thought he was done for. I went back and there was all this long count stuff where Deontay Wilder is posting this long count and everybody says, oh, it was a long count. Yeah. You can watch. The great thing about this is they have a clock on the screen at all times when you watch it on the broadcast. You can actually go on YouTube, watch the knockdown, and slow it down to 25%. And just watch the clock tick. That's all you have to do. He beats it.
10 seconds are 10 seconds, but the thing is, like, with the magnitude of the fight, everything that was going on, it felt like it was long because there was so many things happening every single second.
Yeah, he beats it. Like, I encourage you guys, go, and for those of you on the chat, go and watch it. He beats the count. He's up.
But I think it's the first time that I hear a boxer say, oh, the referee can't count right, so that's why I didn't win the fight. It's like, come on, dude.
Did you guys have a problem with the draw?
Yes.
Yeah. You had a problem with the draw?
Yeah.
Okay. Unanimous. We got a unanimous yes.
Hey, you were
There's not one Deontay Wilder fight.
You were at the fight, right?
Yes, I was.
You know what Wilder did? He, like I said this already a number of times, he took the crowd out of that stadium.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Like even like Clarissa Shields was right next to me rooting for Deontay Wilder, but she was quiet towards the end of the
you have to
final.
Be. That's telling.
So I've been to a number of Floyd Mayweather fights, and they all have sort of the same pattern in my experience. And what happens is right before the fight, the amount of energy that's coming from his opponent's fan base is unmatched.
Oh, yeah.
It is so much negative, and it's all negative energy. It's not like being at a UK, It's not like being with the UK fan base. It's like very, very negative energy in the field where, like, you would feel uncomfortable standing and cheering for Floyd Mayweather kind of thing. So much negative energy. And then gradually over the course of about 4 rounds, that's about how long it takes, about 4 rounds, suddenly it's like being in a house of worship or something like that. It's just quiet.
It's true.
super quiet, because everyone realizes this isn't going to go our way. You know, like we had all these expectations, and it just dies down. And that's it. You know, so I think Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder had some of that kind of stuff going on, but I will say that the UK fans don't turn out for Tyson Fury the same way that they do for some of the other people like Amir Khan and Ricky Hatton. There was a lot there, but I also think that the arena was more split a little bit, maybe like 60-40, right, for Tyson Fury compared to like Mayweather, Ricky Hatton. The whole arena is there for Hatton. Yeah, is there for Hatton. Yeah. Amir Khan and Marcos Maidana, 2/3 of the people are there for Amir Khan. Yeah, you know.
Well, Marcos is Argentinian, so like,
Why do you think that is? Is that because of probably Anthony Joshua?
Well,
more people find themselves rooting for the other British champion.
I will say that I don't intend to use any words that offend anyone here, but I had someone on the show who was from Liverpool the following day, and I asked him this question: Why is it that people don't come out and support the same way? And he said, because he's a gypsy.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know that that's like he refers to himself as a gypsy, but apparently there's some sort of class thing or something that exists that I'm not familiar with because I'm not from the UK that makes it so he doesn't have as many supporters.
Makes sense.
As a guy like Anthony Joshua.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So would that be like the equivalent over here of somebody that's from the hood, or?
I don't know. I don't know if we have an equivalent over here, because gypsies are essentially travelers, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't
have like a base, you know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I can't say that I've dived too deep into gypsy culture. So I'm impressed with Tyson Fury. I can say that much. His brother started professionally boxing not too long ago, a few months ago or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but talking about that, Alejandro Rochin, the judge, he was actually a judge in the Brandon Rios fight.
What?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I saw you guys chasing down judges and stuff like that.
Yeah. He was judging last week at the Santa Cruz fight.
That gotta be everywhere.
Yeah. So which one of you guys was chasing that was you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you were chasing the judge down?
Yeah.
It's on YouTube if
tell
you
me
guys
that.
want.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that, Chris? We went to...
Yeah, like... and I was kind of keeping this a secret from the guys until Chris said, hey, our favorite referee, something like that.
Our favorite judge is here.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, man, this guy already spoiled everything. And Chris was telling me when should we approach him?
Okay. Because this is
to set the context, who is the judge that you're approaching, and what event was he just coming off of?
Okay, so this is the judge that scored the fight in favor of Wilder, which
115, 111.
115,
okay.
111.
If you guys look at that scorecard, it's pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
He's basically, I think he didn't give Tyson Fury a round until like round 5.
Exactly.
Okay. So so you found this judge the following week, right? At another or very soon afterwards.
Yeah. So this was HBO's
at the
last
HBO
show.
event, the Cecilia Brackhouse.
He did the judging for the last fight
at the Home Depot Center.
The Cecilia Brackhouse fight, which you didn't need to be a remarkable judge to judge, but go.
No. And the thing is, like, all the media were focused on Max Kellerman, Royce Jones Jr., and Jim Lampe, and I get it because that's their last hoorah, you know. So everybody's in that corner. But me and Chris, we had our own agenda, and I told Chris, like, Chris was like on deck, like as far as like he's gonna have the phone, he'll follow me, and then I just approach Alejandro Rochin. So he was there talking to some official from the Boxing Commission of California, and Chris was funny too because like he was already recording, but he was acting stupid because he was just going like this, right? So
I was just like,
yeah, because he didn't want the judge to know that we're already recording him.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay.
And
so you're doing some guerrilla tactics, guerrilla recording tactics.
And I'm just looking at my phone, like I know he's right there in my peripheries. And then as soon as he was gonna leave, I just told him, "Hey, Alejandro Rochin, can I ask you a couple questions?" And he's like, "No, I don't do any." As soon as he said no, I just asked him the questions because I already know he's gonna leave. And I told him, "How do you had it, Deontay Wilder 115, 111?" And he just shook his hand and he just turned around and he just left.
He kind of smirked or smiled a little bit and like walked out.
Yeah, he just walked out. Yeah, and everybody around that circle and the boxing, they were all looking at us like,
what are these guys doing?
Like, what just happened here?
Yeah,
and it's on YouTube too if you guys want to check it out.
And
Against Rose Podcast channel.
He leaves. He just straight out leaves.
Yeah. Well, at this point, what can he say, right? Yeah. What can he say? I've never heard of a judge coming back and being like, I rewatched it and you know, maybe I made some mistakes.
Yeah, I mean,
but not even
it doesn't happen ever.
I don't think they're allowed to, right?
But
probably not.
But what's crazy is that like usually when there's like a different, like if there's a scorecard that's skeptical, right? Like that's not right. You have people from the mainstream media saying like, hey, why is that judge, hired or fired, this and that, and they still judge next week. So I have never seen anybody approach a judge about their business the next week. Hey, look, we're right here.
Do you guys explain this to me? Yeah, no, they're not going to explain it. I guarantee you. Yeah. And they'll keep judging. And we've many times on here we've talked about there's so much subjectivity in judging that a lot of times it's like, what do you
subject to your own opinion?
Yeah, there's so much subjectivity and opinion. Yeah. And Stephen McCowan says these judges and refs hide behind the commission with no comment. Yeah, I'm sure they have to.
Yeah, and we touched this on our podcast, and we were like, if you're gonna do a robbery, don't leave any fingerprints. Don't leave those scorecards too wide where you're just like, come on. If you're gonna do something like that, bring it a little bit closer. 113 to something closer, but like 115, 111, that's a wide gap.
I'm telling you, the first 4 rounds, he gave them all to Wilder. It's like he's landing like 2-3 punches per round. Like, how can you score it for Deontay Wilder? Those first 4 rounds.
There's a theory that I have about this, which is that judges and the commissions in general are not comfortable with handing out 10-10 rounds. Okay. Yeah. And you'll even hear boxing experts like Al Bernstein yesterday gave a 10-10 round on his unofficial scorecard. And he made a comment which was, I don't like to do this, but I had to give that round a 10-10. Yeah. Right? And it's that statement that I think resonates with the whole judging and commission community. I don't like to do this. I don't like to give 10-10 rounds. Right? So what that means is that anytime that you have a really difficult time telling who actually won a round, you're making someone up. Right? So you're looking at it and you're going, man, I really have a hard time. I'm not sure who won that round. I'm going to give it to so-and-so. And you do that for some reason that generally doesn't have anything to do with judging. It has to do with your personal preference, right? And there may be so many close rounds in a fight because the fight may continue in that same vein round after round after round where you're like, that one was really hard to judge. So I'm going to give it to this guy. You give it to the same guy round after round after round. The next thing you know, he has a 119 scorecard. That's what happens, right? You're giving it to the same guy.
Humberto Soto, right? Rounds. Humberto Soto against Brandon Rios.
It is the same thing. You're looking at some rounds and going, this is really, and it is a difficult task. I'm not going to say it's easy. When you look at some fights and you go, wow, that guy threw a lot of punches and that guy landed a few clean ones. Like, this is the Triple G Canelo conversation. Yeah, how many Triple G jabs equals a Canelo hook? Is it 10? Is it 15? Is there some number, right? Like, and you don't know. So what happens is you look and you go, I'm having a hard time with that one because this guy did a lot of punching and that guy landed a lot of clean, effective punches. So I'm not sure what to do. So I'm going to pick the one that I prefer. Yeah. And the next thing that happens is your scorecard is a ridiculous margin. So everybody else sees a close fight. But your scorecard says it's completely distant, that someone lost every round, right? Yeah. So that tends to be what happens. And I think a lot of times because judges are afraid to go, I don't know who won that round. Yeah. Which I'll say that all the time. I have no idea who won that round. I'll look at rounds and go, I don't know who won that round.
Yeah. On our podcast, we do talk about that, and we are not afraid to give like 10-10 rounds.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, for the Triple G Canelo, like there was a few rounds I was like, they were too close, man. Like there's other rounds where you can easily see who. But like with those close rounds, you just gotta give 10-10 because you don't want to give a round where it wasn't really earned or where one of the fighters really earned another round. And so
it's kind of unfair to make one guy lose the round and make the other guy win the round when both of them really pretty much were very even. So at that point, it's like, how do you choose who won it? I mean, and I have a problem with that too. Like nobody scores them 10-10, which I don't know why. It's just.
I think it's frowned upon. I really think it's frowned upon. But I'm going to ask Stephen McCowan, who just told me that he's a judge. I can't believe I've been sending you T-shirts and stuff like that, and I never knew that you were a judge, bro. What's up with that?
But even
chime in more, bro.
Even with a 10-10, also a 10-8, because we saw that with Lopez and Thurman. All three judges had a 10-8 in the 7th round for Lopez. Yeah, that's the definition of a 10-8 round right there.
Yeah. So, Steven, let me know if I'm making that up, man. That's my theory, though. My theory is that people don't want to hand out 10 rounds. I agree.
Yeah. But you know what? It's also interesting that you mentioned that because I learned that during doing the ringside commentary last time Leo Santa Cruz joined us on the table. And there was one specific punch where I couldn't tell if it landed cleanly or not. I thought the guy just stumbled back. And I mentioned it during the broadcast, and Leo, who was sitting 2 feet to my left, was like, no, that landed clean and I think he's hurt, right? So when I went back home and watched it, I saw that it was a clean punch, but from my angle, I couldn't see that, right? So I think it depends too.
Yeah.
Because there's 3 judges, right? And they're all on different sides. So I think that depends to what side of the ring you're on.
But I give you a better one. When we did the Abraham Lopez fight, we were commentating that. All 3 of us, consensus, we had Lopez winning it.
Okay.
And then what happens, Chris?
Yeah, there's the judge. The scoring is completely off.
Yeah, or completely different than what your expectation was, right?
Yeah, and something we do on the commentary wise, we do call judges out, and we started doing this out early. If there's like a call that we're just not, that's clearly not what it seems, we do call them out. And and something that we started seeing is like they are listening.
They are
listening.
We literally have a judge next to us.
Right next to us, yeah.
And
next to the commentary table. So I'm not sure if they can hear us or not, but
I think they do.
I'm sure they do.
We had this last time because me and Chris, you weren't there, Gio, and there was a guy that was actually like talking to us, like giving us his own opinion about how he scored it in that fight. And usually, even because you were at the Omar Figueroa fight in Molina.
Yeah.
How long did it took him for them?
It took him a very long time.
It took him like forever.
So the gentleman who was sitting next to me commented on how long it took, and I said perhaps it's a commercial break because this was one that was televised on Fox. So I said perhaps this is a commercial break, and I walked up to see the big screen to see what they were showing on the big screen, and it did not appear to be a commercial break. It looked like they were just taking a long time to do it. So Steve McCowan thanks. He says yes. Most, if not all, pro judges come up through the amateur system, and in the amateurs, you are not allowed to give even rounds. So, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, that is interesting.
It makes a little bit more sense just because in the amateur ranks there's less rounds, so it's like you really have to give one to the other. I see why that happens.
I think at some point they would realize they're not judging amateurs anymore. So
it looks like it, right, Alejandro?
Yeah, but back to the story, like we do call out some of these judges, and right away we noticed like the next fights that we covered, the judges started getting better. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, it did. Like
he's like, I'm taking credit for that.
Well, I'll tell you
noticed it. Not every single one, but like we did start noticing. Okay,
they certainly can hear you because when you look, for instance, even on television, you can find examples of Floyd Mayweather and other fighters actually responding to people in the crowd, to the judges, to people at the commentary table. Like there are examples of Al Bernstein saying something at the commentary table. I think, for instance, in the Berto fight, and he turns and responds to it.
Yeah.
And then goes and continues with the fight.
And they're much bigger.
So you're like looking, you're like, oh man, and I'm sure not all fighters have that kind of heightened sense to understand every single thing that's happening, but certainly some people can. You just took the ref test and was shocked as well. You just took the ref test, Ethan. I hope you passed, man.
I'm gonna apply.
I hope to see you on some future broadcasts or something like that.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
That'd be dope.
We'll criticize him soon.
Yeah.
And giving passes.
Somehow we were talking about Chris Eubank and James DeGale, and we started with the heavyweights. That's why, and then we went down the heavyweight track and stuff like that. So Chris Eubank and James DeGale. So my favorite part of that fight is when Chris Eubank hit him with the attitude adjustment.
Yeah, I already knew you were going to say that. That spine buster.
Spine buster.
He gave him the John Cena attitude adjustment, picked him up with that fireman's carry.
No, there was
Brock Lesnar.
There was that, and later heading towards the 12th round, Paulie screamed at James DeGale, "You're going to come home back crying," something like that. Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
I was waiting for the people's elbow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he hit him with that. Yeah. You thought he was going to take one glove off and throw it into the crowd. Yeah.
Catch it with your teeth.
A little bit of attitude error for you guys. We were talking about the attitude error.
Right,
that's how.
No, it's true.
But no, I think that one was a pretty one-sided victory for Chris Eubank. I think James DeGale looked like, to me, and you guys leave your comments, let me know what you think, but his game plan, I'm not sure why, but he was lunging a lot.
Exactly.
Wasn't working in behind the jab, and the worst thing about it wasn't that he was lunging, aside from the fact that was causing headbutts and things like that, is that he's lunging in and then trying to get out of punching range, and when he's doing it, he's coming straight back, like literally straight back, sometimes all the way across the ring. Like, so he wasn't cutting any angles off of those exits. So his strategy didn't really involve dips or things like this. It was like a lunge-in shot, which a lot of times would result in a headbutt or a clinch.
Yeah.
So it's like either a headbutt or a clinch, and maybe you land a shot on the way in, or on your way out, you're coming straight back, and in some cases have your gloves up in the air and gloves in other directions, just taking clean shots on your way out. You could see towards the end, Chris Eubank literally chases him from one side of the ring to the other and lands like 3 or 4 punches because he continues to go straight back each time. So I was, based on some of that behavior, I'm not surprised he got knocked down multiple times or that the decision went. I think what I call the attitude adjustment, what you guys called the spine buster, that was probably just out of frustration from someone lunging in, butting heads, doing so much clinching.
Yeah, right? The referee wasn't doing a good job at the clinching. That's all he was doing. It reminded me of Andre Ward. You take a couple of jabs, as soon as you land a good hook, you go inside and wrap them up. Yeah.
I think the difference is James DeGale wasn't really even landing anything effective.
There was like no purpose.
Yeah, he's like lunging in, not behind a jab, right? Like he's lunging in, not behind a jab, and immediately clinching because he's too close to work, right? So I was very surprised by. I'm not sure what the game plan was, but whatever it was, it seemed to not be executed.
But the thing, like, it reminded me of Tony Bellew. Like before the fight was even going to happen with Usyk, he was already talking about retirement.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, as I was watching, I was thinking the exact same thing, and I was frustrated because I'm like, he's doing the same exact thing and getting caught by the same counter right by Eubank Jr.
Yeah.
As he's throwing that right jab, he's taking a step forward. So at that point, you can't even move to the side or back because you're lunging in with that same punch.
I think some of what happened was Chris Eubank actually took 2 clean shots in the first round on lunging in shots that he was throwing overhands. Yeah. And sometimes I think when you experience that kind of success, you start to look for that shot again. And so now you're lunging in, but once you start missing it, you have to kind of adjust that expectation that it's going to be there.
You know what built up this fight before even it started? What happened in sparring? Because
years ago, right?
Yeah, the conversation was that Chris Eubank was putting in work at DeGale, and DeGale wasn't even like saying anything bad about it. He's like, yeah, it did happen, but this was like a long time ago. So it might have been something like mentally that there was these punches that happened in sparring that he still remembers that he's not gonna lunge like he was, because or else he's gonna get in that KO in sparring session. And I think that's what happened in the real world.
You remember very recently, Chris Algieri fought within a very short period of time, like within 45 days. He had 2 consecutive opponents, and one of them was his sparring partner that he trained with in the last camp. So it was like the dude literally was sparring with him 30 days before and then was in the ring with him afterwards. Oh, wow. It's got to be mentally, it has to leave something. Yeah. So there has to be something, like, or you guys know a little something about this. I saw what I would describe as perhaps a little bit of an ambush of Rolly on your podcast. So Rolly,
that
who
was
of course
from, our 4th member.
Rolly, who of course became famous as a result of some sparring footage with Ryan Garcia, and you got after him a little bit.
Yeah, I think we put him against the ropes a little too much. Like at the end, I was like, guys, I think we were too rough on him or something.
No, Chicana Boxing Lily. She knows him, so that's why she was able to ask him the questions how she asked him. That's why we were kind of just staying out of it a little bit.
I was out of it.
Yeah, you're out of it. Yeah. You're like, I'm not touching that.
It's like I'm not throwing in the towel or nothing. I'm just back here.
Yeah, I would say there were some interesting comments and things like that were made.
He took it well though. Like I got a little bit more respect for him after this. I was like, okay, like he answered the tough questions the league on him, and in
all fairness, he made some what I would think are pretty valid points. Yeah. So for instance, at one point, there was a question about, and I'm paraphrasing. It wasn't worded in this way, but essentially. The question was effectively, why would they bring up your brand? Or like, why would they fight you and help you out when it doesn't do anything for them? Yeah. And he made a very good counterpoint, which is that look at that dude's last opponent. Do you think that helped his brand more than I would help his brand?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Which is like, I'm actually a credible opponent compared to that last guy who fought who, is coming off of 1 win, but before that, I think 4 consecutive losses or something like that. So that's a very good point. Yeah. And also, when you think about it, he's assuming that the deal from Floyd is legit, which I don't think that's a safe assumption, right, to say the $200K. But a $200K win bonus and what essentially you could perceive as a shot at Tank Davis after that is probably more than you actually would get fighting any other opponent.
No, anything that you attach Mayweather, a title. Yeah.
So when you look at it and you go, what's the benefit of fighting you? Well, for one thing, I'm 9-0, right? That last guy barely has a winning record, and right. And the second thing is a $200K signing bonus and a shot at it.
Like people in the boxing community know who he is, who Rolly is, who the all the drama that will happen.
Even if they don't. Even if they don't, he's a more credible opponent in the sense that you look at him like, even if they don't. So I think he made a lot of good counterpoints as well. Yeah,
he stood his ground.
He stood his ground.
He got off the ropes.
Yeah,
he got off the ropes. So
he took some shots, but he's got a good chin.
Yeah.
No, he did pretty good.
Yeah.
Is she a Ryan Garcia fan?
I mean, who isn't, right? Like girls wise, like who isn't? But no, I think she what? No, like I think she called it how it was. Yeah, she was a little tough on him, but
funny. Yeah. And then you guys had a little bit of a heated conversation actually in your latest podcast. We were talking about this before we got on the phone. The question came up on your show, which was, is boxing dead? And Gio, you have some pretty controversial opinions on the subject of is boxing dead. And not that I don't want to start any heated exchanges here between
you want to write that down? You should write that down.
Is boxing dead? I'll just ask you guys. Here we go. I don't need to write it down. You guys let me know. Is boxing dead? And but I will say that your opinion seemed to be a little bit controversial, and it caused a little bit of a shakeup on the show, what I would say. So can you summarize for me, is boxing dead? Or why would you, what is your position in terms of if boxing is dead?
Why would I consider it dead?
Yes.
I would consider it dead because, well, I've been saying that the boxing superstar is dead. Like, how many guys nowadays can actually sell you a pay-per-view? All right, there's probably 4 guys nowadays, including Manny Pacquiao, who's on his way out.
Sure.
Right? That's the main reason.
Okay.
I think the buzz isn't there. I think the popularity isn't there.
So is it that boxing... Okay, so I'll take those a couple things at a time. So boxing superstars are dead, for instance.
Yeah, when I say it's dead, I don't mean the sport is dead.
Yeah, but you're saying the boxing superstar is becoming something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Or it's less prevalent than it was before. Okay, so it's more about superstars, not about the sport necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the buzz is dying down too. I think it's coming back. I mean, we talked about the heavyweight division for like 30 minutes right now.
Yeah,
I think the heavyweight division's coming back. We talked about Ryan Garcia, right? These prospects. These guys are coming up.
Okay, so it's making a return.
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys were on the same fence or a different fence? It sounded like you were not on.
So with me, it's just like, obviously, my take is like boxing is obviously not in the mainstream, so it's never gonna be dead because there's always gonna be a niche audience. There's always gonna be people invested in boxing, but as a whole, it's not as popular. It's not in the mainstream. It is for the casual viewer. It is hard to get invested and get excited about boxing when you don't have that superstar. So to me, it's just like it's not in the mainstream.
Okay. Stephen McCowan jumped on and said the top guys are going to have to fight more often to take on real challenges. Yeah. I could see that. As well. And what was your perspective the same?
No, I get what Gio's perspective is. Like, there isn't that much big superstars in boxing like there used to be, right? Like, but my point is that, like, we had this conversation even before. Like, there was boxing in the morning, there was boxing in the middle of the day, there was boxing at night. Even though there is always boxing in some Mexican channel, right? You always probably see it in Telemundo or Univision. But the thing with boxing in general is, like, if you're investing a certain amount of money, right, you expect some sort of return. And I think what I'm trying to get at, maybe more than likely, what you're going to end up seeing is these networks have more power, leverage, having the fighters fight the best fights. Like, you already see that they ended up bringing Anthony Joshua across the pond to fight some guy who nobody actually even knows, Gerald Miller. But that benefits the zone because their headquarters is in somewhere in New York. They want to brand him out to the English media in USA to come to England. Miller is not going to be a big draw in England, maybe not. But for Anthony Joshua, the end game is to create his popularity over here. That's how you create a superstar over here. That's why Tyson Fury ended up coming over here. He knows that if he brings Deontay Wilder over there, there's not that much popularity. But if he comes over here, he could create his own name. The end game for him was not to defeat Wilder, but to him create a popularity contest for himself against all these heavyweights. And I think that's what ended up happening, because what ended up happening? $80 million deal with ESPN. So you have all these big deals with Bill and Matchroom, Boxing, ESPN with Top Rank, PBC, and Showtime. But I think what we want in boxing is quality, right? Except quantity. That's what we're seeing in boxing. What I'm trying to say as a boxing is I wouldn't say it's dead, but you see a huge investment now more than ever before.
Yeah. So I think, and there's a couple guys who are going back and forth here. Some said that it's dead and we don't get all the matchups that we want. The welterweight division is the deepest, but it has not gotten the 3 biggest matchups that it can have. And then as fans, we're sick of lopsided matches. So I totally see all those perspectives. And those are all very good points. I think that, I don't know that makes boxing dead. So I think there's some distinction there. So for instance, if you want to say boxing superstars are dead, you could probably make a case for that. Although I would ask you, for instance, who has the highest contract of any athlete in the world right now?
Yeah.
Canelo. By far, $365 million.
And we just saw Manny Machado with 10 years, $300 million.
Exactly.
10
so
years.
He's by far, right? It's not even close. Like it's tens of millions of dollars beyond.
But that's one guy, right?
Yeah, that's one guy, but it is the biggest contract in all the sports. And I could also give you another guy who makes a lot of money in the last 2 years. Show me someone else who makes $120 million gate, like off of his guaranteed purse in one night, for instance. Tell me which athlete does that, right? So, in fact, the people at the highest level of the sport, particularly for those of you who are on the chat, particularly the fighters who are paid by Al Heyman, okay? So those guys get paid more money than they have ever been paid, okay, in their entire life.
What's your opinion on Al Heyman?
Yeah.
My opinion on Al Heyman? I can't say that I know the man personally.
Nobody knows him.
Nobody knows
him.
He's a ghost.
You can't know a ghost.
Is he real?
Is he real? Wait, that's another question.
Yeah. Al Heyman is a number of things. So you have to think there's Al Heyman, the advisor. There's Al Heyman who runs PBC. Here's what I would say. Ask those fighters what their opinion is about Al Heyman. Okay? You go ask the guys who you're talking about on this chat right here, the guys who never fight each other. As a fan, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I want to see those guys fight each other.
And that's why when you bring up that point that these guys are getting paid more money than ever,
they are.
Is that good or is that bad?
Well,
it's good for them, right?
It depends. It doesn't necessarily need to be bad. They're getting paid more money doesn't mean it's necessarily good or bad for me. What's good or bad for me as a fan is, are they fighting the people I want to see them fight?
Well, exactly.
If they got paid a ton of money and all fought each other, we would be fine. Nobody thinks that they should make.
That's not the case, right?
Nobody thinks that they should make less money, though, right?
Yeah, so, but that's not the case, right? Most of these guys are making millions of dollars for fighting the top 15, the 15th ranked guy, and they're still making so much money. So why fight?
Yeah.
If you're Tyson Fury, why fight Deontay Wilder?
But
if you're Anthony Joshua, why fight Deontay Wilder?
He doesn't.
When you could fight.
Yeah. he doesn't fight you.
Why would you if you can fight Big Baby Miller and still make $30 million?
I don't disagree with you. I'm not saying that I disagree with that point at all. As a fan, it's not great for me.
But you know what's interesting that you say that a lot of money. These fighters, how much money is that? Is that like if you watch the average NBA player who only averages like 2 points and a half a rebound?
Let me stop you right there. There's a million reasons that you can't do that. So, for instance,
they play 82 games.
everybody who plays in the NBA, if you exist in the world, everybody who could play in the NBA plays in the NBA. It's fair to say that. I've heard other broadcasters say the same thing, which is if you're good enough, you're playing there right now, right? In boxing, you do not have to be good to compete at the professional level. There is no standard, right? All I have to do is pass the test, which is a test that I'm confident as a fit young man I could pass, for instance. It's 4 rounds of jump rope, 4 rounds on that bag, 4 rounds on the speed bag. It is 4 rounds of sparring with someone at the professional level, right?
But my thing is
that guy doesn't get paid a dime. So if you average things out, right, this dude who's making money, if you average things out and say, oh, well, professionals on the scale don't get paid the same. Yes, that's very true, but you also don't have to be good to be a professional boxer. You have to be good to be a professional in virtually any other sport.
No, but the thing, what I'm trying to get at is that we're talking about sports that are regulated. Boxing is not regulated. It's always been deregulated. So in this case, these fighters come into the game, and when any given fight, they could probably die. Yeah. Right? That's true. And that's why these fights take a long time, because they know that the price comes with a huge consequence, like what happened this past December. Adonis Stevenson. Like, he's still barely recovering, right? So I think that's my thing. Like, even though they are getting paid much how they used to, I still feel like at least somebody has to at least pave the way to get paid. Because these fights, all it takes is one fight and you're done with your life.
True. But this kind of, and there's some good points being made on the chat that I'll get to in just a moment. But the original question was, how do I feel about Al Heyman? And I said, it depends on what you mean. So, for instance, the fighters who fight for Al Heyman, for the most part, think Al Heyman's great.
Yeah.
He gets them paid more money than they would ever get paid, and they don't have to have these long drag out, types of battles, right?
And
so
they only fight twice a year.
As an advisor, if I were a professional fighter, would I consider taking on Al Heyman as an advisor? I might do that. Right? I might do that. Now, again, like I said, I don't know him personally. Do I think that Al Heyman puts on the greatest shows? Do I think that Al Heyman sometimes doesn't put on certain shows to the detriment of fans? Yeah, sometimes that's true.
But you know what's the thing with that is that was happening when he was investing his own money. Yeah. Like, now you have networks that are putting their money. So what do you think that they're going to be pressuring Al Heyman? Like, that fight needs to fight, at least come up with a credible match. Come up with an interesting fight for Spence. Here's Mikey Garcia. Right? So that's the thing. There's a huge difference. If I'm putting in money for these fighters, I'm going to make sure that it's safe. Everybody stays safe. Everybody's happy. But if somebody's giving me money, look, I want this fight. There's going to be pressure on putting in the best fights. That's what's the difference between this Al Heyman from PBC like 3 years ago. Yeah, they were playing time slots everywhere. This one is Showtime and Fox putting in different time slots from their own self, and this is what we want.
That's true. $60 million a year from each.
Yeah.
Right? So Al Heyman actually has an operating budget of $120 million annually to put on shows for Showtime and Fox, and that same amount of money goes to Matchroom, right? So Matchroom and DAZN, that's their operating annual budget, and Golden Boy has a DAZN deal, and they have an exclusive rights deal with Facebook Watch, right? So you look at it and a lot of things, like, so when people, for instance, just as a general statement, boxing's dead. This is HBO's operating budget, 5 years ago, many times over again for many different people. And that's the reason why, for instance, on this show, there used to be weeks would go by where we wouldn't have a real fight to talk about. Yeah. Okay, we started this show in February of last year, and there would be a 3-week gap where we're like, okay, how are we going to fill this content? Because there's not a lot of things to go on. There are now, at this point, more fights than I can actually cover unless we want to sit here for 2 hours every day, which with you guys is probably okay, but with some guys it's not. There's more fights that we can actually cover. PBC had 2 cards yesterday. Just PBC, right? Yeah. So not to mention guys like your broadcast, which is available, many of the local promoters now have availability to an audience through Facebook Watch and through YouTube and through all these channels. The only reason I have a show.
Free.
Right? Yeah. Only reason I have a show for free. So I actually think there is more content readily available at my fingertips as a consumer than there ever has been. The only question is about the quality of the content that's being provided. Now, here is one thing that I will say, and I would hope that you gentlemen would agree with this. At the top level, yes, there's a lot of times where we're not seeing the fights that we want. But it doesn't take top-level people to make great fights.
Yes. Agreed.
It just does not, right? Yeah. So when you say, like, for instance, when we're talking about boxing, if I sit there the whole day and watch all the undercards and stuff like that, I may see the third fight of the night, the best fight that will occur that night. And it could be great. Yeah. And it's not Errol Spence or anybody that you've ever heard of, and it doesn't matter. Like, it's kind of like Brandon Rios and Mike Alvarado.
Exactly. Yeah.
Those gentlemen are, with all respect to their careers, Brandon Rios should probably call it a day, right?
No, but even going further, we see some of the best fights doing the ringside commentary.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right? 4-round fights.
4-round fights, right? Yeah. 4-round fights have a lot of appeal because there's not a lot of time to get engaged, right? You have to start straight away. So my point is that you don't need those guys to make good boxing. Good boxing can happen. It's lightning in a bottle. It just happens between 2 fighters who can do it right, who are the right stylistic matchup for each other, right? Yeah. That's really all it needs. You don't need Errol Spence for fighting to be great. And anyone who watches fighting at that level can be. Now, to this point, Stephen McCowan, eventually this money will dry up. That may be true. That may be true. You may say, okay, this is oversaturated. The operating budgets are too high. People aren't working together. And after a period of time, fans are going to get fed up and they're not going to pay for these services anymore. That may be true. However, that will mean that boxing starts to fail when that fails, not right now. So, like, you can't look at right now and say boxing is failing because in the future the money's going to dry up.
And you were talking
it's
about
not dry right now.
You
the well is running.
Before the podcast, talking about the numbers with the ratings.
Yeah. Oh, the numbers with the ratings. Yeah. So I actually thought this was interesting because another thing, you're right. So Stephen McCowan says, and I agree with you, the names are what make people watch, though.
Yeah.
That's true to an extent, and here's where I disagree with it. The names are what made people do things like subscribe to Showtime or HBO or buy DAZN. That's what the names do. But boxing is on ESPN now. Many people get boxing on ESPN. Many people get boxing on Fox. So the question is, do those people turn on boxing when it comes on? And the answer is undoubtedly yes. Bud Crawford, you guys had this conversation, actually, which was, who cares about Errol Spence if he's not fighting someone big? And the truth is, a lot of people do.
Yeah, the boxing community does. Yeah,
it doesn't even need to be the boxing community. For instance, Bud Crawford last year had the most successful fight of the year. 2.2 million views on ESPN.
Now is that
2.2 million views? Who was it against, though? Before we go anywhere, who was it against?
That fight?
Yeah, 2.2 million views on ESPN. Who was it?
Was that the Benavidez
fight?
fight?
I'm thinking Benavidez fight.
It was the Benavidez fight.
Jose Benavidez.
So how many people do you think outside of Los Angeles know Jose Benavidez Jr.? Nobody.
Not a whole lot, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Perhaps if
but
you
those
remember the
numbers
boxing
don't mean
community.
anything to me because people used to do that with pay-per-views.
What do you mean people used to do that with pay-per-views?
People can sell you more than 1 million pay-per-views.
Okay.
Now, this is on free TV, so...
But that's the point. If that many people are tuning in to watch it and the operating budget is low enough, it will be a successful event. But Bud Crawford had the most successful televised event of last year. 2.2 million views.
In boxing?
In boxing.
So you got to know what that... what to me, I
you
got
don't
to see what
compare it
that
to
bar
soap operas
is.
and Showtime dramas and stuff like that. You compare it only to what it's in. Of course, the Super Bowl gets something like 98 million views. But boxing has never pulled that. The biggest pay-per-view of all time only got 4.4 million views or something like that. So 4.4 million buys. So
but that's multiplied
you can only compare it to boxing.
That's multiplied by 5 or 10, right? Per buy. It's not just going to be one person watching it.
That's how you measure pay-per-views.
Well, to me, that's why the numbers don't really tell me anything.
Well, you think if somebody's watching it on ESPN, it's only one person, but if you buy the pay-per-view, then it's 5 or 10 people?
No, well, my point is, what are you comparing it to? How low was the bar before that, right? Because if you used to watch boxing on ESPN back then, it was bad fights.
Back then? You mean when?
Let's say 10 years
before.
This year? No, 10 years. Let's say 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
What memorable ESPN fight do you remember from 10 years ago?
I'm not comparing it to 10 years ago. I'm saying that 2.2 million views is a successful event in boxing.
I suppose.
I mean, like, how many more views do you want it to get? Like, or what? By what measure would you consider it successful then?
Well, compared to other shows on ESPN, other sports.
Yeah, but you can't compare it to other sports, particularly here. Well, here's the one thing. When you guys say boxing is dead, are you talking about, like, here in the United States, or are you talking about international?
Oh, no, internationally it's not dead.
Yeah. Like, first of all, that's probably what the first question should be. Yeah. Because internationally, it's in the top 2 sports that virtually everyone watches.
Yep.
In the United States, we have 15 other sports to watch, and we care about them more in many respects. So you could compare it to an NBA game if you want. But if your argument is boxing is dead because it doesn't match the NBA Finals...
Well, it's never going to match it.
It never has, and it never will, and it never has come that close, right? So it's also never going to come close to the Super Bowl or the MLB or anything like that. But you can't measure it against those to determine whether or not boxing's dead, because at no point in history
has it ever been
would that have been the case, right? So it's a strange measurement, I think.
I mean, if
you guys are getting me excited all of a sudden.
Let's say you put Canelo Triple G on ESPN. How many views do you think that would do?
You know let's see.
On ESPN, you're not getting the best fighters, really.
Sure.
Or the best fights, at least.
I can't project it out, but I think the first Canelo Triple G was...
It was 1 million buys, right?
No, it was over 1 million, because the last one was 1-1. So I think the first one was probably 1-4.
Something like that.
Yeah, like 1-4, something like that. So you can assume that would be a much larger number if it were on ESPN. But in the same way that, like, for instance, Errol Spence fighting on Showtime, a guy who, in Carlos Ocampo, who he puts out in one... does 683,000 views, or it peaks out above 700,000, right? But he's also fighting on Showtime. It's a premium subscription channel. If you turn around and you put that on Fox, perhaps it does more, right? And so the answer to your question, like, who would watch Errol Spence? Probably about 2 million people.
Well, I never
probably
asked
about right. No, but I'm just referring to the question that came up on the show, which is part of this whole thing. Like, is boxing dead?
But the thing is,
probably about 2 million people would watch it.
Yeah.
But ESPN, they know what to do as far as, like, how to draw the ratings. For instance, that fight with Lomachenko and then Teofimo Lopez, that fight before they were doing the Heisman, the Heisman Award ceremony. A lot of people watched that.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, they follow up with the fight. So they carry. That's why Teofimo Lopez was wearing the Heisman.
For which one?
The one in December.
The which one? I'm sorry. The Teofimo Lopez fight?
I think it was the Lomachenko
undercard. Yeah, undercard, yeah.
Yeah, because the Lomachenko fight was like the second most popular of the year or something like that. Bud Crawford's didn't have that running into it.
So it's all a big setup, but they know how to marketalize and like for sure. Like, and it's difficult to have huge numbers, especially like even like I'm sure they felt kind of stupid when they were doing the ESPN card with Kovalev and Alvarez.
Yeah,
because that same network were also showing a basketball game, Lakers and Warriors, on ABC. So
not to mention the fact that I had to switch between ESPN and ESPN Plus like 4 times that night. You're like, which one do I need it? Well, hold on, it's ending, but it's the same card and it's in the same place, and I have to switch apps to watch it.
I think I went to get some food and I didn't realize this said event is over, and I'm like, what?
This is growing pains for this new industry.
But it's funny because like this Tyson Fury deal with ESPN. And Bob Arum, they've been on the coded already. They said that they have 3 million subscribers to ESPN Plus, and everybody wants to know what are the subscribers for DAZN. And Eddie Hearn was in an interview like a month ago, and he was like, "Oh, I can't tell you that."
Yeah, I'm sure he can't. ESPN naturally should carry more subscribers, I would think, than DAZN, just because the amount of coverage and their legacy and all these different things. Steven, you disagree with me? Do you think that the sport can take over? I hope so, man. This was my. This is what I like to talk about. That's why we're here. I hope it does take over. I'm just saying that as of right now, if you rank boxing amongst other sports in America, speaking only in the United States, it's not in the top 2 or maybe
it's like soccer. It's like soccer, basically. Most people here don't watch it, but go to Europe, go to Asia.
I think Max Kellerman did this in his second episode, and Max Unboxing, like he introduced his own analogy where you have 4 corners of different sports. You have basketball over there, you have soccer over there, baseball over there, and then you have a fight. Which corner will you more than likely go?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. People inherently
watch that fight.
What he's saying is people inherently are drawn to combat or competition.
There's a fight outside right now. I'm gonna stop this and I'm gonna stop
this, and you're gonna
go to the window and watch it.
Yeah, World Star.
So I can actually agree with a lot of those points, like all the stuff that you guys are making in terms of, as a fight fan, do I want to see those fights? Of course I do. Of course I do. I would love to see Errol Spence fight Bud Crawford.
That statement right there, need a truly fresh, revolutionary promoter, like how Dana. But the thing is, that's his own league. He controls that league. He is the dictator of that. He's league. The president. He can. That's a huge difference.
I think it goes back to a point that Gio made on some of our other episodes where he just says you just have to be entertaining. Entertainment. That's the thing. Don King was entertaining.
Gerald Miller is entertaining.
Yeah, it's just.
I use Adrian Broner as a good example because, to me, he was never one of the best fighters, but people are still tuned in to watch him. He had a pay-per-view with Pacquiao recently, and people are like, "Why? He already lost all these fights, and he still keeps getting title shots."
Yeah, Adrian Broner has a WBA. That was a WBA regular title shot, but still a title shot nonetheless. But he also has the essentially what do they call it? That Ric Flair, Gorgeous George type. You know what I mean? Like people will actually pay just as much money to see you lose as they will to see you win. You know, like people just hope you're gonna get knocked out, kind of thing.
It's the Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, the Floyd Mayweather draw. Like I'm gonna buy it because this guy might finally knock Floyd out, and I don't want to miss that kind of thing.
So that's what we were talking about after the Pacquiao fight. We're done with Broner's. Like, what's the thing that's gonna drive you? He hasn't been knocked out. Like that's the one thing that they're gonna use now. It's like,
and we've been mentioning Adrian Broner as a possible opponent for every welterweight now in our podcast. So.
Because that's probably because you guys rightfully assume that all of the top welterweights who at least fight for Al Haymon aren't going to fight each other right now, and so they need other opponents, right? So if Errol Spence isn't going to fight Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, or and any
Pacquiao.
Pacquiao, he's not going to fight these guys. Who's he going to fight? It's going to be somebody like that. You know what I mean? That's not to say that those couldn't make for entertaining fights, though. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. Is it just takes the two right people. These things that are considered the golden era, like Steven, to your point, Hagler, Hearns, and what makes those attractive is, yes, that all those guys will fight each other, but also that they can beat each other. Legitimately, they can actually win against each other.
Styles, yeah.
If any one of them, let's say Ray Leonard, beat them all, and he would stand out above the rest, and the era would look weaker. It's because they have competitive fights with each other that they can actually win. You look at Floyd Mayweather, and people criticize him because he beat everyone in his era. If him and Pacquiao had a trilogy and they each won one, and we would say a lot better things about Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, very true.
Just pulled my headphone out.
You're into it.
I know, I am. You guys got me fired up. You guys got me fired up.
And the thing about the 80s that was so great is like that they could compete at such a high level. That's why it was the golden era. Yeah.
I actually kind of had this. I feel like sometimes I'm not a new age guy. Like, it's not like I dislike people from the 80s or past events, but I'm probably criticized because I don't have them up on a pedestal necessarily. Yeah. Which is to say, there's this thought that goes around, particularly with people that grew up in older eras. I think it comes from nostalgia, which is the idea that they're just made of sturdier stuff.
Yeah, I get you.
The guys back then, they're just made of sturdier stuff. And I'm supposed to believe, for instance, that if you were a heavyweight in the 1970s or 80s, you were more equipped or conditioned to handle a straight right hand from Deontay Wilder.
Right.
Right? Yeah. That you somehow, that it doesn't impact you in the same way because you fought in that era. Yeah. You know, your jaw is made of cast iron compared to the fighters of today.
Yeah, better chins back then, right? Yeah.
The truth is that the fighters of today, whatever you will say about them and how competitive that they will be, they have some advantages. Yeah, they have two distinct advantages that cannot be had in the past, right? Yeah. The first advantage is we know more about health and fitness and everything else than we have ever known. Mm-hmm. So they know when it comes to muscle conditioning, when it comes to working out, they have the benefit of modern science, which will be true of every generation. Yes. The next generation is going to know more about how to be an athlete than we do. Mm-hmm. It's just inherently how it works. Look at football players now and look at football players then. It's
LeBron James, man.
Yeah,
play 82 games if he wants to.
Right. Yeah, like you look at it, they know more. The other thing is, and I actually said this on a Facebook post the other day. I think it was Newton who said, you know, we learn because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Every passing generation adds to the library that you can study to become an exceptional fighter.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson doesn't get to grow up watching Mike Tyson.
Exactly.
Right? You guys just had your Michael Jordan episode.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan didn't get to grow up watching Michael Jordan, right? But all the basketball players who play now, they did. They got the benefit of all the things that he learned. All the innovations that he created became the foundation of what players use today. So anything that gets created in the 1970s and is this innovative idea, when an athlete comes around today, it'll just be part of their core. It's going to be part of, you know, what they learn. It's the curriculum. This is how we do it in boxing, right? Yeah. So I think modern athletes have some advantages and could compete in other eras. Like, I just don't believe, for instance, that if you're a heavyweight in the 1970s, you know, you had some kind of natural edge. You know, if you fought Mike Tyson, you had some kind of natural edge or advantage against these other guys. So I take a lot of criticism for that.
Yeah. No, you make up some good points, bro, and I agree with that. Even though, like, I do have like the 70s, the 80s, I do have them up here.
I think when people say that, I think mostly they mean there was better competition. So maybe to them, that's why fighters were better.
Like there was a bigger pool of fighters.
There's a bigger sample.
Yeah. But
yeah, that's true.
What are the people saying?
Steven, I have to catch up on all your stuff. No, he's not fighting. He said that Shane Mosley, Trinidad Vargas, Mayorga, they all fought each other. And that's a great generation as well. Yeah, they all fought each other, and they're all competitive with each other.
I say that all the time.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen with today's boxing. Competitive in regards to HBO and Showtime.
Oh, right? I see what you mean.
And now it's what? Competitive against what? ESPN, The Zone, Fox Sports, you know, all these other networks.
Yeah.
All these other things. That's true. There is a lot.
We're going to talk about the heavyweights this upcoming week. And I listed, I have 20 heavyweights, and everybody is 20% heavyweights from ESPN, The Zone, Fox Sports or something. They all have different networks.
Yeah, that's true. When you guys read about this Top Rank thing, like Gio, for instance, when you learned about Tyson Fury going to Top Rank, what was your reaction to it initially?
It's going to be tougher to make the other fights happen.
Yeah, did you think the rematch, that's out the window kind of thing? Or
I think for now, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe not immediately.
Yeah, not immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's why I'm like, then why is Joshua going to fight Big Baby Miller? And he was waiting for these other guys, and they were doing their business on the side. And
Joshua released a statement this week. He actually said that if he's not able to get the other two for his next fight, he wants to fight Luis Ortiz.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be good.
He came out on a.
I'd like to see that too.
Yeah.
Actually.
He was in the Breakfast Club interview.
Oh,
he was
yeah?
saying that, yeah. Because basically he was saying they're blacklisting him, all right?
Yeah.
So he said he would take on Ortiz if he can't get the others.
That sounds. I'd be interested in that fight though. That
Yeah.
sounds good. That sounds good.
Ortiz definitely like the black horse of the heavyweight division. He's so exciting.
The only thing is he's getting older. That's the only
Yeah.
thing that sucks. But
Yeah,
He's
we'll
up
see,
there, dude.
We'll see him next week. Well, this Saturday.
Yeah,
good.
this Saturday. I actually said on a previous podcast that I thought Ortiz would be a difficult fight for Usyk.
Oh yeah.
I was crucified.
Oh really?
really,
Oh, man.
Come on,
Absolutely.
Come on, man.
What are they saying?
People thought I was out of my mind and were saying this ridiculous, that he would only Anthony Joshua would be favored against him, and maybe Dillian White against Usyk. I mean, and all
Dillian
these things. Like
White?
people were like, people were saying I was crazy.
Outside of like Fury, I think Ortiz is probably like the best like heavyweight with boxing skills, boxing IQ. So
Brazil versus Joyce on the undercard. Versus JoJo. I thought Dominic Brazil had to fight Dillian White for an interim title.
Yeah,
They're
that's
gonna
what I
they're gonna make Dominic Brazil fight for that WBC belt until the other two can work it out, until Tyson Fury and Homeboy can work it out, right?
Yeah, that's what I was telling the guys. Like, to me, I project Deontay Wilder and Joshua fighting during the election next year. That's how you promote
that's a big one.
USA versus England. And just imagine, like, the politics into that. That's how you build a
and
fight.
you called this like
Yeah, that's how you build a fight. And the thing is, it was this week that Eddie Hearn was saying that the WBO, after Usyk fights his next two heavyweight bouts during the spring next year, he wants Usyk to fight Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
So the only fighter I could see Anthony Joshua fighting after Gerald Miller is Dillian White. Get that rematch, Usyk, and then Wilder next year. That's my projection.
Fights.
Those are big fights.
Yeah, those are good fights.
Because Joshua is only gonna fight twice,
Yeah.
maybe 3 times a
Yeah.
year. But
What did you guys think, or what was your reaction to the announcement that Tyson Fury would be part of Top Rank?
yeah, that's exactly what Gio said. First, I was like, man, it's gonna be hard to make, and most likely when deals like this happen, it's so hard to work right in the beginning, like right at first. So I was like, we're gonna get ready to see Wilder fight mandatories and not the Fury fight, which is a little upsetting because they both. You can tell they both want to make the fight. When you can tell what fighters really want to fight each other, they make it happen, and they made it happen.
But I wasn't mad that he got paid though, like you were saying.
Oh yeah, you can't be mad.
I was glad that he made his money.
Yeah,
That's true.
The thing was the thing with Fury is like he's not. We already know he's not in it for the money. Like I think he donated a lot, like his whole purse.
Purse, yeah.
That's what they all say.
Right, but but I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm upset that like we don't get to see this rematch right away.
Yeah, I actually had a different take. I kind of like him, honestly, because I could see Bob Arum doing something else in the future.
Oh yeah.
Did you saw the last podcast?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Did you hear what I said?
I saw the whole thing, so
So my take is that Al Heyman and PBC have all the welterweights.
Oh yeah, so this is a negotiation for Bud.
This is a gentleman's handshake in the future. If I give you Fury, I'll give you Deontay Wilder, but you got to make sure you return the favor and give me Errol Spence, Keith Thurman sometime next year on pay-per-view.
At least one of those, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a bad theory. I thought a lot of this probably has to do with the fact if it goes to purse bid, that Frank Warren isn't going to be able to outbid Al Heyman, right? Like, so I was looking at it and it was like, okay, if the WBC makes this go to purse bid, Al Heyman's is gonna win, right? The purse bid. But now that Bob Arum is behind him, you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, if this goes to purse bid, Top Rank could win. Top Rank could win the bid. They can conceivably outbid Al Heyman on this fight.
And to that, a lot of people need to understand what that means is that if you win that purse bid, that means you're going to be the heavy promoter doing that and also putting the judges that you want. This is one thing that Fury.
The location.
This is what Fury was talking about. We're never going to get robbed now. Now that we have ESPN
it's not just like it's the location. They get to
no
choose
more
where
Alejandro.
no more Alejandro.
They get to choose where the fight is. They get to choose all
What'd
this.
you say, Gio? Sorry.
And he said no more Alejandro.
No more
Alejandro. So but they get to pick where the fight is, right? They get to pick all these different things. Although I think contractually, his contract is still a USA contract. He has to fight on United States soil, but they get to pick where the fight is. They get to pick all these things. But the other thing is the only option, if it goes to purse bid and Top Rank wins that purse bid, the only option for Deontay Wilder is to fight or vacate. That's it. Yeah. And without that belt, Deontay is kind of his identity right now. The WBC belt is Deontay Wilder's identity. They will strip him of that belt and make Tyson Fury fight someone else for it. And Tyson Fury will become the WBC champion, right? So it's kind of like, I think by having Bob Arum backing him up, it's now like a power play. Like I actually have stake in the game. We could win this purse bid, and I could be in control of this entire thing. Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? Besides the Fury headline was what Wilder said over the week. So you mentioned about PBC fighters being taken care of, Al Heyman, right? And part of the reason comes in return with loyalty, right? But the thing what Wilder said is that he's a free agent. And then the interview Jimmy Gray, who else? Eddie Hearn, and Bob Arum, and a lot of people. Oh, Richard Schaefer too. They were all stunned that Deontay Wilder said those statements because, he also has the powers to be on the other side of the table. Yes, you're a free agent, but you also have to understand loyalty. Who brought you up?
Sure. I mean, well, the truth is that he does not have a contract with Showtime. He doesn't. No. Right. And Al Heyman is an advisor of his. So he doesn't necessarily have a contract with Showtime, PBC, Fox, or any of those cats, right? Al Heyman's not even his manager. Shelley Finkel's is his manager. So he could conceivably do those things. And I think when it comes down to it, if you're Deontay Wilder and you have to make the decision, do I vacate or do I fight for the mandatory purse, which is probably 60-40 or something like that, or thereabouts, right? You probably make the decision to fight. Yeah. Because you don't want to drop the belt. Yeah, right. That's
you said. That's what is gonna draw. That's his leverage right there. That belt.
Yeah. So a lot of it was, oh man, they delayed the purse bid. They said the negotiations are going well, and now, boom! I just dropped Bob Arum on you. So Bob's gonna compete in here with this thing.
Yeah, they were delaying the negotiations because behind closed doors they were doing some Game of Thrones. They were doing their own deal.
This is round 12.5 right here.
Yeah,
dude, that's. I actually thought it was quite clever. Yeah. Steve McGowan Ortiz is very overrated, perhaps. But does that mean that you think he would not be competitive with Usyk? Because, he doesn't really have – he does have some distinct advantages when you look at the man. He's larger for sure, which and is probably, I would assert, more powerful.
Yeah. Now, is that why you say that it would be a competitive fight?
Yeah, because I think when you look at the cruiserweight division and you talk about and you compare Usyk, for instance, to other cruiserweights, he has really, if you just go checkbox the columns, he's got advantages in most of the cases. It's like footwork, he's got the advantage. Hand speed, he's got the advantage. Defense, he's got the advantage. You can kind of go through and do that with most of the other cruiserweights, and he comes out on top most of the time. And I think there are very distinct and meaningful check boxes that do not go in his column when you're talking about heavyweights, and in particular someone like Ortiz, where you're like power, and you look at it and you're like, no, I think that one goes in Ortiz column. Size.
Wasn't Ortiz winning in those rounds against Wilder?
Oh yeah,
I thought he was.
No, I think he was officially winning.
No, he was ahead in the scorecards.
Yeah, he was ahead in the
Ortiz?
Yeah, against Wilder.
No, I don't think so. I think the official scorecards actually had Wilder winning, which is why.
You can pull it up if you want.
Yeah, pull it up. But
but after the knockdowns, he probably started going down on the scorecards.
Yeah, but I'm with you on that. I think the heavyweight division is kind of a different ballgame, man. Because now you're getting hit by guys who are 40 pounds heavier than what you're used to at the cruiserweight division.
Yeah. And I agree. So let's see. So here's the scorecards. I can share this with those of you on the live chat. You guys can do the math while I share this. Okay.
Test your mental math skills.
Well, it's right here, right? So this is look. Wilder's up. Wilder's up.
Just by 1 point, Don.
Yeah, but he was up on all three scorecards. He was going to win that fight by decision if it kept going. Now, I don't agree with this. I feel as though Luis Ortiz was comfortably winning outside the knockdowns. Yeah, personally. But It would be a scrap. Okay, cool. That's all I'm saying, Steven. I'm just saying it's not like a slouch. He has some clear advantages.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that Usyk couldn't negate those advantages, but he has some clear advantages. I mean,
I just like the fact that he's in the heavyweight division. Usyk, he's gonna make things really interesting.
Yeah. Right now's the time.
Yeah. Right now, you think for him?
Right now's the time to be in the heavyweight division.
Oh, in the heavyweight division.
And that's why. And I know Gio doesn't like this. That's why. Klitschko is thinking about coming back because it is enticing right now. The heavyweight division, Gio doesn't want him to come back. I'm like, maybe one fight, pick one opponent or whatever.
Who would it be though? Who do you think he should fight? Like if he were to come back,
you said a good one last time. I think you said Tyson Fury.
No, I said so he wouldn't get hurt.
Like, yeah, so he wouldn't get hurt.
But that would be.
But I'm like, do you want to watch that again?
Yeah, you're right. That one's boring.
It's like, dude, you only landed 6 punches a round. You'd have a better shot going back at Anthony Joshua. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
If you had to pick a fight, Sean, who would you want Klitschko to fight?
I might be in Gio's camp here. I might say I think he should just
stay retired.
Stay retired, bro. I might say just live the life, bro. You're good.
We're not gonna look at him differently. Be comebacks and wins.
You know,
the same
go do
Klitschko.
some. You know what I think you should do? I think you should go do some exhibitions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think I mentioned that too.
You should go fight in Japan and
fight guys.
Who's gonna try to fight a big tall guy like that?
Fight guys half his size.
Yeah, you should go fight exhibitions. You know, I think what's funny is Floyd gets a lot of flack for it, but all kinds of people do it after they're done. Like Mike Tyson did exhibitions, Muhammad Ali did exhibitions. They all do exhibitions. Even Rocky Balboa fought Thunder Lips. You know what I mean?
I said that last time.
Oh, did you really? Yeah.
That's funny.
Even Rocky fought Thunder Lips. Like.
You know, he actually mentioned that Tank was going to fight the same guy he fought.
I heard him say that Tank was going to fight him. Yeah.
I
don't know if that's real or what.
I don't know.
That's Tank is like in his fighting like time. I mean, these guys that do exhibitions usually they do it after they're like retired.
Just a new era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
WWE.
But I can't title this episode WWE, right?
This is true. Well, like Coach, Coach was on here and we were talking about the exhibition thing, and I was like, dude, if some cat wants to pay him tens of millions of dollars to go beat someone up for 3 rounds,
why
like
not?
I can't blame him.
Yeah.
I cannot blame him.
I'm not gonna watch it, but go ahead, do it.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like we don't have to watch it. It's okay. He's gonna go and get his money, and I can't blame him for it.
On the business side, you can't be.
No,
you can't.
No. Like, and I can't say that I'm in the camp. There's a lot of people who say it's bad for boxing. It's bad for boxing. Like, I don't. Why? Like,
any promo is good promo, right?
Yeah.
Well,
he said, "Well,
I don't know if any promo is good. You know, what's bad. What's worse for boxing is bad scorecards. You know what I mean? Like that's worse for boxing. That's bad for boxing, right?
See that every weekend.
I know, right? You go and you watch a fight on ESPN. I was actually telling someone like 2 weeks ago. It's to the point where when you actually hear the judges announce a scorecard where it's right, you're kind of like, oh wow, they did an excellent job.
Yeah.
We mention that every time we do the ringside commentary. Yeah. We're like, oh, okay. I don't know if they were listening to us or they actually got it right themselves.
Like Jose Ramirez, for instance. Yeah. I watched that and was like, oh man, they're gonna give this a lopsided scorecard because it's like in his hometown, all this this competitive fight, and this poor Zepeda's gonna get some, like basically they're gonna give Jose Ramirez some one night. No, they did a good job.
It was pretty close.
It was good. It was a good scorecard. Yeah. And I was surprised.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got surprised. I don't know. Don't you guys get surprised?
Yeah, I do. I was gonna ask you, Sean. Did you see the Harrison Charlo fight?
Yeah.
And what did you think about the fight? The commentary?
I don't recall the commentary specifically for the Harrison Charlo fight. I'm sure I talked about it on the show at the time that it happened.
So,
but I remember thinking that both of the fights that happened, the number one thing I remember about that fight, it's funny how little I actually remember about that fight.
Because you were at the event with us.
Oh, what's that? Oh, that's right.
That's right.
That's right. I was at the event with you. The number one thing I remember taking away from that fight is that those two shouldn't fight on the same night anymore.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I remember watching it.
Tell us why.
Well, because I think the loss emotionally impacted the latter Charlo in a way that made his fight not as competitive or not as good as it would have been. Like he's basically sitting there and getting emotional about something that is completely distracting and that does not involve his opponent and what's going on. So I remember watching the second fight and going, man, these guys really shouldn't fight on the same card. Anymore. You know what I mean? Like I think that was the number one thing I took away, but I don't remember specifically anything about the commentary that stood out. Yeah. I will say, like, and sometimes it's hard because a lot of times I'm not even with fights like that where there's multiple fights going on. Like last night, I had one set going on my phone and one set on the TV. So I had DAZN going on the TV while the first 2 cards on PBC were on my phone, and then I switched it. So like sometimes I'm not even hearing what they're actually saying. I'm just kind of watching. So like, is anything remarkable happening? You know?
So we were at the fights, and so we missed those fights, but we went back and saw them. I went over to Gio's house, and we saw the fights, and the commentary was just so one-sided. Like,
they were basically saying that Charlo was winning every round if you listen to them.
Yeah, it happens.
It was actually pretty funny.
I think it's I think one of the things that I expected Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather to be like that. I expected the commentary to be very pro Pacquiao. But it actually didn't turn out to be that way, and I remember being like, "Oh wow, they're actually it's kind of like
actually doing their job."
Yeah, it's kind of like the judges. I was like, "Oh, they're calling it like what's actually happening here."
Right. Oh man.
You know those commentators. No, I'm just messing with you guys. Fucking commentators.
You know what? Like the fights are broadcasted on Facebook Live, so people can actually write their comments. We haven't gotten that many negative comments. Yeah. We get like a couple every.
Except from Stacks.
Yeah.
Stacks.
Oh yeah, I heard he didn't want it.
He didn't want that smoke. He didn't want that smoke, so he didn't show up today. You know what I mean? No, he actually went to TJ. Oh. So he went to the DAZN fights, so he wasn't able to be here today.
He's still in TJ partying it up.
Yeah. Or at least that's the excuse he gave me when I told him you guys were coming on. He's like, actually I'm gonna be in TJ.
I'm buying my ticket right now.
I should call him. And introduce you guys.
Yeah, he be trying to spark some beef between us.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah. I was listening to one episode, and then he was like trying to fire him up, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
It's like my lifeblood is getting Stacks. It's giving him a hard time.
And Gio's like, wait up.
If you guys watch the shows with me and him, dude, it's like half the show is me.
He was believing it for a second.
Oh, he was.
Until I hopped in the comment section. I was like,
it's like, is this not what I said? It's not.
Dude,
that was the other 2 guys. That was not me.
It's taken out of context. No, Gio still has like 3 mandatories, so he's got to.
Yeah, I'm still training for it.
Who are you training for?
There's too many people.
Have you guys? I actually let one of the guests hit me. Did you guys ever see that?
No.
Oh man, yeah. So we got up there and I put the body pad on, and so this is how Stacks gets me back for stuff like this, by the way, because I give him a hard time basically all show, every show. Yeah. Right.
It's like me with these guys.
Yeah. So
I'm with you.
Exactly, right? It's what makes it fun.
Yeah. No, they don't get it.
I give him a hard time all show, every show. So anyways, here's how he gets me back though. So they convinced me to take a body shot, what I think is a body shot from a professional fighter who is now like 17-0 with 17 knockouts. Right?
Sims?
We actually know one.
Yeah. So we go and I put the body pad on and we get in the ring, and I was like, cool. So I'm just gonna take a shot, right? And
cool
and he goes 1 minute. And he put a minute on the clock, right? And I'm like, a minute, right? Like, this is crazy.
One shot. Man.
So he's hitting me with straights and hooks and all this stuff for a minute, and I'm doing everything I can to make that minute go by. I'm like it's basically looks like I'm trying to box, right? Like I'm in there like moving around the ring.
Just take a knee, bro.
I'm clinching.
Take a knee.
Yeah, I know. I'm like clinching. I'm doing all the stuff that I learned when I used to train and stuff like that. And it is, the dude who's put fire on me. Damn. Joseph Landeros, shout out to Joseph Landeros, was just throwing fire on me and I'm like, I would say with 20 seconds left, I'm like, how much time? And they're like 20 seconds, right? And so I'm sitting in there, I'm taking some shots.
You're like, is this Jack Reese's clock or
I know,
what?
I'm not keeping track of time, taking the shots. So then I tie him up at another point, and I go, how long? And Stacks goes, 20 seconds.
It stops when you clinch.
I was like, dude, what I was like, how long?
Stop the clock.
I don't know how long I actually went, but I'm pretty sure. No, but that's how he gets me back for stuff like that. Convinced me to take body shots from some vicious man. But Joseph just had his 18th birthday. I think he turned pro when he was like 16 or 15 or something.
And he's 17-0.
Yeah. So he just had his 18th birthday, and So happy birthday, Joseph. In case I didn't hit you up. But
it just reminded me of that Creed scene, that Creed 2 scene where you're just taking those body shots.
Oh,
yeah, dude, that's pretty much what was going on. Yeah. Only Michael B. Jordan handles it a little bit better. You know what I mean? I think he's a little bit better conditioned.
He's got some pounds on you.
Yeah. Well, not only that is I don't exactly have a six pack going on under here. You know what I mean? I've got my dad bod happening.
Dad bod.
You know what I mean? I've got all that stuff. I got the dad bod. Oh man.
We need to have a pound for pound list of dad bods and like.
My number one is Humberto Soto because that. Sergio Mora was getting that. Sergio Mora was like, he looks like someone's dad.
He does.
He is 38.
He is somebody. I'm pretty sure he's someone's dad.
I'm sure he is.
You think Rio's gonna fight one more time?
Gee, I'm like who? Maybe what? John Molina. Yeah. But then no, because he's on DAZN and Golden Boy. Yeah. I don't know who. I don't know.
He's 32. I mean,
yeah, he's supposed to be done.
He's been in so many wars.
Also, it just seems big for Brandon. 152. You know what I mean? Like, I know it was a catchweight. It wasn't straight up junior welter, but it's just like those are big dudes. You know what I mean? And it's hard to say that your power carries up that high. You know, it's kind of like.
Yeah, his power never carried compared to when he was fighting at 130, 135.
Yeah, like I think even 147, he's you know, the power didn't have quite the same impact. And also, I mean, he's also facing a much higher level of competition at 147, and it's kind of like, you know, at the top level, we all hit hard and we all take punches well. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
Like at this level, we could all hit. And I think that's like what Canelo said about Triple G, which is like, sure, but at this level, we all hit hard, we all can take shots. You know what I mean? Like. So it's probably a combination of both, but I agree it didn't really carry up through those weight classes. So at 152, and he probably struggles to make 147. You know, so I think because he was like 151.6 or something like that. So I don't know, man. What do you guys think about that, Mikey Garcia?
Errol.
Who do you got? What if I were to ask?
So let's start with Gio because Gio has an interesting.
I'm giving Mikey a chance.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, when I first said it, they were like, "Dude, are you crazy?" But I mean,
peace, Steven.
Because back then, Mikey still had his dad bod, man. Like,
he still does.
Well, I have it as a draw.
A draw?
Yeah.
Okay. A draw, and what about you?
I'm gonna go. This is tough, but I think Spence's size might be a big. I mean, it's gonna be a big factor. So I think Spence. But
okay.
Did you have the chance to see Errol Spence?
In
person last week?
Yeah, he was there at Microsoft. I was right next to him.
Were you able to size him up?
Well, next to me, obviously, I'm a little guy.
Right?
But I will say that he's quite a bit bigger than Mikey. I mean, there's a noticeable size difference. Daniel Velez has to go with Mikey. What's up, Daniel? Daniel's another judge too.
Oh.
Daniel's a judge and a referee.
Is he one of the good ones?
In the amateur boxing community here. Is he one of the good ones? Here's something that I'll say. I told Daniel a long time ago we were going to do this, and every time I talk to him, I bring this up still, and I still want to do it. I'm going to give Daniel an opportunity to come on here and score with me Manny Pacquiao versus Jeff Horn, because we're kind of on opposite sides of the fence here. And Daniel's going to get the opportunity to convince me that Jeff Horn won that fight. And I will take the opposite approach.
Okay.
Good luck, sir.
Is he what's his name?
Daniel.
Is he from Australia?
No, he's not.
Oh, okay.
Is he from around there?
From here.
I have a couple offshore accounts now.
No,
Daniel's gonna find out he went to school.
Daniel's been on at least twice.
Oh,
and also a coach, an excellent coach at Jackrabbit, right?
Oh, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Long Beach.
Yeah.
Nice.
Whoa.
Right there off of
we'll pay him a visit.
I'm
just kidding.
Yeah, no, definitely. But so what up, Daniel? Shout out. But so you got Mikey, Gio, you took Mikey, Christian, you called it a draw. Simos, you called it Spence.
Spence.
How do you think Spence takes it? Just like a decision? You think a knockout? What do you think?
I don't think a knockout. They're both. I think he's gonna hurt him, a couple times, but I think just decision. I'm not sure what the majority or. But
yeah, I think to your point, there is a noticeable size difference, and not just a noticeable size difference, but Errol Spence would have no problem competing at 154, for instance.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I think it's like basically him and the Charlos kind of worked those 3 divisions where they kind of took separate avenues where either of them could have competed in the middle. You know what I mean? Like all of us could compete at 154, but instead, you know, I'll take 147, you go up to 160, and we'll like clear this stuff out, and we don't have to run into each other or create any conflicts, right?
Later on.
And so I think that Errol could very easily compete at 154 if he chose to.
To the size.
Yeah, exactly. He's a large welterweight, and obviously Mikey coming in where he's coming in from is a small. It's going to be small at 147, and it's not just that he's taller than Mikey. You know what I mean? Like he's just a bigger man. Yeah. Generally, when you stand next to him, that's the impression that I get as well. You're just a bigger dude. Mikey's the hometown hero. Not out there though, bro. They're fighting. Yeah, that's they're fighting in Errol's hood.
I think it's still gonna be pro Mikey though.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But it's Errol's hometown.
Yeah. But you know what? You know what's so good about this fight is I think any prediction that people give can actually happen though.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it's one of those things where for some reason I just want to believe in Mikey.
Oh yeah.
I want to. Yeah. I don't. Like if you ask me to pick, if you ask me, hey, like rationalize who you think is going to win. When I rationalize who I think is going to win, I pick Errol Spence. Yeah. Every single time. When you ask me who I think is going to win, if I had to bet something on it,
of course, me too. I'll put money on Spence.
I pick Errol Spence. Right.
Smarter choice.
That's what I would do. But something in me, because, like I said last week, because Mikey's daring to be great, there's something inside me that makes me want to believe that Mikey can do this, right? Like I want to believe it, and I'm not saying that he can't. I mean,
I kind of look at it like Mikey Garcia can win the rounds because of his skills, right? And then Spence can be like Wilder, just do the punches.
Well, that's true,
and that offsets to me a draw.
Yeah, I think it depends. In order to be able to win the rounds, your punches have to be discouraging enough, so they don't have to be effective to the sense of where you're landing solid knockout blows. All they have to do is discourage your opponent from, for instance, saying, okay, I'll take one to give one. You know, it's one of my favorite boxing sayings of all time. You got to bring ass to get ass, right? Yeah. So,
whoa.
That's how it goes, bro.
We got against the ropes and not condone that type of language.
That's how it is. I've seen your show. You guys condone that type of language. Get out of here. But it's one of my favorite sayings in boxing, and I think that if what you're, he doesn't have to be able to like knock him out with a single shot, but he has to be able to put enough on it that it's discouraging. Otherwise, he'll just have his way with walk him down, tire him out, do all this different stuff.
Make him doubt a little bit.
Yeah, just make him doubt a little. Like you look at Floyd. Floyd doesn't have crazy knockout power, but you also don't want to take his straight shots, right? Like it's like you kind of look and you're like, okay, no, it's good enough that I can't just power through you.
We call it respect. You want to
unless you're Brandon Rios. I mean, you're not gonna enjoy getting hit in the face, right?
Yeah,
you're gonna laugh at it too.
Like it just needs to be good enough, and otherwise you get what I've referred to on here is the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. effect, where you fight fighters who, in many respects, are superior in terms of skills and craft and all these things, like guys like Andy Lee, but they can't put enough on the shot to mean anything to you, right? So over a long period of time, eventually they just wear down and you land these big shots. So like what I don't know is how good Mikey's stuff will be to Errol. You know what I mean? Like, and it's hard to predict. Yeah, it's hard to predict. Like you can't predict a fight without knowing something like that, right? And so you look at it and you're like, could Mikey win? You're like, yeah, I mean, if he could put enough stuff on it, if he could be discouraging. I mean, the guy's like the Tim Duncan of boxing.
Yeah, he's got a really high, he has a high boxing
perfect way to put it.
What's it? It is, right?
Perfect way to put it.
Yeah, he's like the big fundamental, Yeah. What does ass have to do with boxing?
Everything.
It's a saying. I didn't invent it.
Edit that part out.
I didn't invent it. It's a saying. I actually think the first instance of that I heard is in that old movie with George Foreman. I think it's called Let's Do It Again. Like I want to say from like the 1970s or something like that. And then somebody came out and used it.
It can mean so many things.
No, it's a boxing movie. And then I think like James Toney came out and used it as well. I would put it on a shirt, except for it would be explicit, and so I don't want to do that.
Some of the best interviews are James Toney. He's just so wild.
You guys ever interviewed James Toney?
Have we?
Have you ever interviewed James Toney? No. I've seen you guys do, but like you actually, aside from Rolando's call, you actually did a call very recently with Teofimo's opponent, right?
Yeah.
Magdalena or
Diego.
Diego
Chufuego.
Yeah, that's interesting because that was about the touchdown dance, essentially, right? That he did, and whether or not it was respectful versus whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Here's another good one. So Teofimo Lopez came out with a quote after that I also think is like, I love it. He said,
I'm worried.
This one's not as bad.
All right.
But he said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember it exactly. But he said, I fear no man but God, and I respect no man but my father.
Yeah.
I
heard
and
that.
I was like, okay, that's
good.
pretty hard.
Yeah.
That's good, right?
That's a good one, yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Put that in a rap song.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Somewhere
I was
in
like,
there.
man, I want to ask
behind him, you see a tattoo in the back saying that.
I kind of want to ask him, like, did you come up with that, or did you hear that somewhere?
No.
Or did your
You know
father
what I mean?
tell you to say that?
Google it. You might find it
I
somewhere.
know, that's true. I should. I'll Google it and see what's up. I'm not. Was that? Did I get it right? That's
No,
it was
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that, right?
That was right.
That was it. You must have been saying it a lot for you to remember that.
I fear no man.
He was waiting for the moment to say that quote.
Right. He finally said it. He got out of his chest.
It's not coming up right now.
I haven't seen his dad, but I keep hearing that he's a lot like Angel. So, yeah. You guys have any thoughts on that, or?
It'll probably be like.
Well, I see a lot of scriptures.
I don't think it's actually in there. He may have made it up, guys. I just typed
Through
it in. It's
scripture,
not.
maybe.
I also could have just typed it in wrong.
Just claim it, dude.
Just
claim it.
Yeah.
It's not on
we'll,
Google.
we'll say Teofimo made it up. We'll credit him. We'll credit him with the quote. Oh man, see, all the best sound bites come from boxing.
Yeah.
You know, so many good sound bites.
Mike Tyson is the best.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
He actually
I
came
can't
out
even
with
repeat the stuff that he
Exactly.
says on
Yeah.
there.
In the press conference, you can.
He actually has a
man.
podcast now too. I gotta
Yeah.
check that out.
I know. So does. You know what's funny is I feel like when I started doing this, so it's been about a year. We're coming up on our 50th episode, 50th anniversary. A couple episodes from now.
Veteran.
When I started doing this, there was like 3 that I was aware of, and it was Talk Box with the dude from Ring Magazine, and there's one that's at a gym in Norwalk called the Boxing Rundown.
Yeah.
So those were like the 2 that I was aware of when I started this one, and now like Teddy Atlas has one, and Mike Tyson has one, and
But
all
you know
these guys. I was like, damn.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've already started like sparring with a couple of my friends like this past spring semesters of last year.
Yeah.
And so we'll have open bag from Tuesdays from like 7:30 to 9:30, and then Fridays from 2:30 to 4:30. You could come in, get your gloves, and you set the bags, or you spar with anybody. So it was open class, so you don't have to pay a fee. You can just come in the gym.
Okay.
So in the spring, it was empty. It was just like 5 guys. And then out of nowhere, this past fall semester, it's crowded. There's like 50
like a
people.
million guys
Like,
on there.
I can't do this. I'm not even going to do this. And you see, but the thing is, it's women's also doing it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of them now.
Dude, I think women's boxing is in I mean, it's not, it's going to get bigger.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right now, looking at history, it's in a place right now where it's never been.
Yes.
It's going to continue to
It's
grow.
resurging, yeah.
Yeah. I think,
What do you have between Shields and Hammer?
You know, I would like to say that I favor Shields.
Wow. That's the consensus I'm listening.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that I favor Shields in that fight, but I mean, she's also a U.S. Olympian and all this different stuff. It's not exactly an unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
She's also been chin checked, right? So we've seen her very recently.
She fell down.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen her very recently take some heat and go down. So I think that kind of makes it entertaining because she doesn't look invincible. You know what I mean? Like there's sometimes you watch somebody, like you look at Katie Taylor and you're like, I don't know, dude. Like she's like
a different level. Yeah.
Yeah, like she
She's
seems
a
to be on a
monster.
different level than everybody else. Like she there's nobody who's really exposed her yet. You don't look at it and like, you know, where someone just gives a good go of it, where she wins, but someone just gave a really good go of it, right?
Her
Like show some of her flaws.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
show something.
she'll meet her maker when it comes down to Amanda Serrano.
You think so? Then
Yeah. That's her
see,
maker.
like, I'm actually excited for that.
That one, yeah.
I'm excited for that,
Yeah.
man. And that's the thing. I think that last HBO broadcast, it gave a bad outlook on women's boxing, but it really doesn't have anything to do with women's boxing. It has to do with matchmaking. Like bad matches are bad matches.
Yeah.
Whether
Regardless.
they're it doesn't
Like,
matter. if it's men or
we're
women.
used to seeing that in the men's, but not in the
Yeah.
women's.
Like a bad matchup is a bad matchup. It doesn't matter if it's men or women. Like if they made a really bad matchup between men, you know, it also would not have been entertaining. So it's kind of like I hate to see criticism for that event, you know, because there are other ones like Heather Hardy has had, 2 fights in the last year that were incredible.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah. No, I'm excited for that. Serrano. That'll be dope.
Yeah.
St. Pat. She's fighting on
March 15th.
March 15th, yeah. St. Patty's Day. Probably Michael Conlon, too, at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
I just made that up, but I'm sure it's true.
Yeah, Diego's brother's in it, too. Jesse McDiallo, he's in the undercard.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah, the Shield Hammer, that's going to be a good
That'll
scrap.
be good, man. That'll be good.
It's going to be good. The day before, though, we have Lomachenko and Corolla on a Friday. So we got boxing on Friday and then Saturday.
Yeah.
So we got
it's
too much
getting harder
boxing.
because now they're putting boxing on Sunday, and I'm like, man,
Right?
Yeah.
nobody who watches this show is gonna watch it while the boxing is.
You're
on.
gonna hit us up, hey guys, can you guys come
You
into
guys
the
come
show?
down,
Nah,
like,
we're gonna watch the fights,
doesn't
dude.
Everybody's gonna be watching the boxing.
You're gonna be sitting here by yourself.
I literally had during the Ray Beltran fight a few weeks ago. I had Michael Dutch over on, and he was a last-minute replacement for Jesse Vargas. So Jesse Vargas had done the commentary in Indio, and I don't know if you guys remember, but it had been pouring down rain.
Yeah.
And he got stuck. Like, he literally couldn't make his way back here, and he was very gracious and everything about it. But Michael Dutchover, who's an undefeated prospect who fights for Thompson Boxing, came on the show that day, and like was totally watching Ray Beltran. He's like, hold on, I'm gonna watch this Beltran fight while we do it.
I was watching that episode. You're like, I don't want to do it because I'm gonna be so distracted.
Dude, yeah, it was so funny. He had Beltran going on and everything. I was like, yeah. I kept asking him through the middle. It was distracting for me too. I'm like, who's winning right now? Is it Beltran?
Yeah.
So, oh man, I think that's it though. We covered it all, right?
March 15th.
March 15th.
March 15th fights, yep.
Fury. So we top ranked. Billy Joe Saunders going to super middleweight.
Oh,
Zerto claims he didn't
about
vacate the title.
Triple G news, Chris, that you sent us this.
Oh, the
You know, it's funny. Have you ever ran into Mike Kopinger before, or do you have anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
He's from PBC, from Fox. I actually ran into him last Saturday at the events. He was actually facing right in front of me, so he has a better seat than me. And I just told him, if you look at his Twitter posts, they always give him shit.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, because he always talks about like some of his sources, this and that. And I told him on Saturday, hey, you have any Triple G news? And he looked at me like, stop messing around. Like, I told him, no, I'm just want to know. He's like, man, I'm so tired of it. And then that's when he starts to like kind of have fun with it. He's like, yeah, man, I'm just tired of hearing it. People always harass me about Triple G news. Like, I say it's 1 more week, 2 more weeks, this and that. But today he was reporting, and I think I give him his word, because why would you want to report something when you're already tired of reporting it? You know what I mean?
That's true.
And after that onslaught, I guess he's reporting that Triple G has signed with the Zone. What's interesting is that they're giving him equity of the Zone.
I saw the report today that said, breaking news, they're close to signing, and it will involve an equity deal, like 3 fights plus. Although that's kind of on the borderline of breaking. It's kind of like nothing has happened yet.
Yeah.
The equity part is interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. But the WBC did the same thing about Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. They had like a breaking news update, which was that they'll have an update later, like on Tuesday of this week. I was kind of like,
it's like, no, that's how you see movie trailers, right? You see a teaser of the trailer and then the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, that's borderline breaking news, I guess. It's like Triple G hasn't signed yet.
So
he's going to.
What's one matchup you want to happen this year, for sure? Before the end of the year, for sure. We got to watch this fight, for sure. That can be possible, too.
Oh, that can be possible?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if the money's right, they can all be possible.
Right. Yeah.
Money makes everything work. Yeah. Makes everything work out.
People could say, I'm a free agent, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Appreciate all the points of view. Oh, thank you, Brian. Brian said it was a great podcast. You guys made it sound like he was going to be starting trouble up in here on the chat. You know what, man?
He's going to start right now, watch.
You're all right in my book, brother. You're all right in my book. I don't have the experience like these guys do, but at the same time, you're fine with me.
He's the bouncer at our show. Nobody could get through the door.
Nobody gets through the door without him? He just stands at the door?
He just does this.
Is he a big dude?
Not really, but it works.
It works.
It's in the stare, the desk there.
Oh, man. Jeez, a matchup that I want to see this year. So people have asked me this question a number of times. And I had said originally, which this won't happen, so this one's not possible. I had said originally I want to see the rematch between Fury and Wilder because I had convinced my wife that we could. I'd hoped it would be in the UK and I would get a vacation out of it, right? And I was like, dude, we'll go check it out over there because I've never seen one in the UK. Yeah. And I really, really want to see a fight in the UK with all the UK fans. Yeah. And so I'd been pulling for that one, but obviously his contract now, Top Rank, there are going to be fights in USA, so that one's out the window, although I would still very much like to see the fight, of course. Yeah. I'm kind of spent on Canelo and Triple G. I have no doubt we'll see it again, but it's one right now that I think is kind of tired out. Yeah. So I'd like to see Bud Crawford versus any of the top welterweights. To be honest, I personally, this is another thing that I've taken some flack for in the past. After one fight at welterweight, I said Bud Crawford was the best welterweight in the world, right? And a bunch of people were like, "That's ridiculous." He hasn't fought everybody.
Turn to your right.
And yeah, exactly. So I still
I'm laughing at you right now. Look at me.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. I still believe that. Yeah. I still believe that Bud Crawford.
See, at least I don't say that. I haven't said that yet.
What's that? That he's the best.
He's the best welterweight.
I know. That's why I'm laughing.
I do. And I see something in Bud Crawford.
You better go on.
Hey, you know Gamboa hurt him, right?
What's that?
You know Gamboa hurt him, right, in that fight?
That's okay. Yeah. Boxers get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, Shane Mosley hurt Floyd Mayweather Jr.
You know how big Gamboa is?
Here we go.
Shane Mosley hurt Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yeah, they're both the same size, actually. But you know how big Gamboa is? I'm just asking because.
What do you mean? I know what weight they compete at. Is that what you mean? Like 140, you mean?
Sure.
Okay.
He's trying to say that if a little guy hurt him, like, what are the big guys gonna do to him? But it's like you said, they can take shots.
5'2".
People can take punches at the highest level. The thing that I think I see in Bud Crawford that I don't necessarily see in any other welterweight is something similar to what you see in like maybe an Andre Ward, which is that they're adaptable. Right? Yeah. So you can't really comment on their style because whatever style they show, if it's not working, they've proven that they can change it through the course of time, like very quickly, right? Yeah. And so there are times where fights look competitive with Bud Crawford where you're like, wow, this fight, like in 4 rounds, it looks like this fight is competitive. And then over the course of the fight, it just tends to separate away. He does something different, right? Yeah. And I think you see those types of fights with like Floyd Mayweather. You see those types of fights with Andre Ward. Like, and I'll give you an example. So Bud Crawford, who is not a big welterweight, totally agree. Jeff Horn is a big welterweight. Is he not? Yeah. Okay, so Jeff Horn's a big welterweight. The only reason
what did Keith Thurman say, Chris?
What's that?
Who's Jeff Horn?
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. But to be fair, he fought a competitive fight with Manny Pacquiao, did he not?
He did.
Now, I don't think he won. I don't think he won, but he wasn't out of the fight. He wasn't completely gone and done. And part of that is the reason is because his physical size advantage is what he used. He employed rough housing tactics and all these different things to push his weight onto Manny Pacquiao to make it difficult for Manny. Okay, that's what he did. So he tried to do the same thing with Bud. And as that fight evolved, not only did it not work, Bud Crawford actually proved that I can do that better than you, right? That's your game plan. Your game plan is to enforce your weight, use your body, do all these different things. And by the time you get to the 6th round, you know, you look at it and you're like, Bud's the one doing that. Yeah. Bud's the one using his body. He's the one pushing him around. He's the one making it physical. Like, not only was that your game plan, he took it from you. He took your whole game plan and said, not only could I could do it, but I could do it better. Right? And I think when you see someone who's adaptable, like this, it is generally speaking, they have a way of separating themselves from the competition, which is that whenever you see them in trouble, they can find a way to make it out, right? They can find a way to adjust to make it out.
Keith Thurman,
and
right?
I see that in Bud. Well, what's that?
Keith Thurman.
What about Keith Thurman?
Same thing. Right.
Keith Thurman has done some of that. That's true. He doesn't separate himself so much in that he just seems to be better than his opponents. So, like, for instance, he has a very competitive and close fight with Sean Porter, a very competitive and close fight with Danny Garcia. What I'm talking about is guys who, they pull away. They just start to pull away.
Those guys are much better than a Jeff Horn, right?
No, they're much better than Jeff Horn. So, it's just a characteristic I see in him as a fighter that you don't see in many people, which is that you don't have a style that I can peg down. It depends on what's going on, right? Whatever's going on, I adjust to that, and that's what I do. And you don't always see that. Like, you look at Sean Porter. Does Sean Porter adjust his style to what's occurring? No, not really. He's got one style.
That's how he lost to Kell Brook.
It's reckless abandon, right?
Yeah.
It's absolute reckless abandon. I'm going to go in and this is how I'm going to approach the fight. Danny Garcia has kind of got his boxer puncher thing going on, right?
Yeah.
But I don't see that when I look at Bud Crawford. I don't think Bud has one style. I think he has many.
Multiple.
And when you look at that characteristic in other fighters, you're like, okay, that's like, it's guys like Andre Ward. It's guys like Alexander Usyk, right? They don't have one style. They have many, right? Which is why I said that. So I took a lot of criticism, obviously, for making that claim.
I'm with them.
But I know I do. But I do think that Bud Crawford, given the opportunity, could prove that he is the best. But he just needs it to happen.
He needs it to happen. Yeah.
I think it's important for his legacy to get that fight. So I want to see Bud Crawford fight any top welterweight. That's what I want to see.
Nice.
What do you guys think?
I agree. I would love to see him fight any of those top welterweights. My pick would be, I think the toughest one would probably be either Errol or Thurman. It's because Thurman has he's just gifted. Obviously, he's coming back from injuries. And he's not the same Thurman.
I actually would like to see him against Errol because I feel like Thurman still needs to recover, do some other fights. Like if he beat Thurman now, people would say what you just said.
Yeah.
Right? Like they would say, oh, well, he's coming back. He had the injuries. He had all this stuff, and that's why he lost. Yeah. And if we're talking about something that's important for Bud's legacy or proving it, like Errol would prove it if he beats Mikey and then Bud beats Errol, right? Yeah. So I'd prefer Errol, I think.
Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of prospect names and
a lot of prospect names up here.
I told you something right before the podcast started. I was telling him about Teofimo Lopez, like the whole Lomachenko thing. It kind of reminds me, and I could probably see it happening because look what happened between Canelo and Mayweather. Like that was all a learning experience for Canelo, and it made him a better fighter. So maybe for this Teofimo Lopez, maybe this would be his learning process right here with Lomachenko. Yeah.
Teofimo Lopez versus Haney, Ryan, or Loma from Boxeo.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think Teofimo versus Haney is probably the most intriguing.
Maybe in that order.
Well, do you think Haney is a more difficult opponent than Ryan?
I don't know. I don't think. No. Oh, Devin Haney?
Yeah, Devin Haney.
No, I give Devin Haney.
Yeah, he's more experienced.
Yeah, I think Devin Haney is. I think Devin Haney is a more difficult opponent than Ryan. I think Teofimo versus Devin Haney would be a really interesting matchup. Of course, they're both young.
I kind of give it to Haney though.
Really? Interesting. I think the standout thing to me in that is that Teofimo Lopez is not in a stage where he's developing power.
Yeah. Wait, Boxeo was saying that he wants to see those fights this year?
Ones, yeah.
Yeah, they're very young. So big money fights down the road.
But we're trying to make it as who would you take?
Who would you take? Yeah.
So Teofimo Lopez versus Haney, which I think it's a very intriguing matchup. I think Teo has the actual power. Like he has man strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does.
And that's not to say that Devin Haney
can tell just the natural strength.
Yeah, like it's pure, unadulterated, natural, as they say in Rocky, hurting bombs. Yeah. So I think Devin Haney will gain more of that sort of over time as he fills out his body more. I doubt that either of them will remain at 135.
Yeah, one guy that we should add right there is Shakur Stevenson.
Shakur Stevenson also. Yeah, Shakur Stevenson. Yeah. I tend to favor Teofimo Lopez over that group, with the exception perhaps of Loma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Rolly and Ryan Garcia. You guys know all about that one. These guys just talked to Rolly on Wednesday, wasn't it, right? These guys talked to Rolly on Wednesday and give him what for on that matchup.
Yeah. Through the ropes, right, Chris?
Teofimo Lopez versus Rolly.
That would be.
We're getting crazy here.
Yeah, that would be a good.
We're getting carried away.
Outside the ring, the little antics would be crazy, man.
The Instagram account.
The Instagram beef nowadays.
Yeah.
I can say that Teofimo Lopez has sort of taken the spot of my favorite fighter to watch, to be honest. So, do I think he's the best in the division? Like, could he beat Lomachenko? Not necessarily. I think it's an intriguing matchup. It could conceivably happen. But he has all of the stuff. He has everything that you need. He has great power, speed. He has athleticism. So he's a very athletic guy, not just a pure boxer, although he does have some pure boxing ability, timing, things like that, footwork. I mean, you saw it behind the back punch. He threw on a veteran.
And Bob is literally trying to build this up because he has Lomachenko fighting on the 412. Yeah. And then next week he has Teofimo Lopez fighting.
Yeah. Speaking of which, just so you guys know that I'm not making this stuff up. I had a contest here very recently, which was for this signed Teofimo Lopez glove that we got at Boxing Expo 2018. So I got a chance, an opportunity to interview Teofimo Lopez. He was very kind, and he signed this glove for us. So it says Teofimo Lopez 2018, #TheTakeover. So we had an Instagram contest to win this glove in preparation for Teofimo's last fight, and UCATS won.
Nice.
So I guess Gio, that's probably you actually, right? It's you?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gio, here you go. This is the Teofimo Lopez #TheTakeover glove.
It's real, guys.
This was
real.
This was that fight against Diego before?
It was before. I did it leading up to that fight.
Yeah. So I'm like,
okay, because this feels awkward.
I think Gio was the only one who actually understood the rules of the contest.
What were people doing?
It was like my most liked post ever. It was like had like 200 and something, whatever likes on Instagram. I don't have very many followers on Instagram. I think I had more likes than I have followers on that post or whatever. And it was shared by like the Teofimo Lopez fan club, and it was shared by like all these different things. And you were the only one who really followed the rules. So here's your glove.
There you go. I was gonna blow that thing up because you're like for every entry.
You can do it multiple times.
Yeah, but I'm like, nah, I'm just, tag one person, and nobody else comments.
You tagged your other Instagram account, right?
Yeah.
I tagged myself.
It still counts as a new follower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still a new follower, even if
it was funny because I tagged that Chicano Boxing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So she helped us out.
Yeah, she hooked you up. She hooked you up with the Teofimo Lopez glove. She didn't even know it. So thanks, Chicano Boxing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sean.
Of course,
appreciate it.
It's just so you guys know, I'm not making this stuff up here. So Stephen McCowan, I know you jumped off. The T-shirt's real, bro. It's coming to you. It's on its way. It's on its way. All right. What else do we got? Man, there's so much stuff. Yeah. You could probably keep going.
Yeah. You guys want to talk a little bit about the upcoming show for All Star Boxing?
You guys should promote it. Absolutely. Yeah. March 15th.
March 15th.
Yeah. March 15th.
On a Friday.
On a Friday.
On a Friday. I'll be there.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
I took the day off even. Yeah. So I'm going there. I'll see you guys at that. So March 15th, you guys will be doing the commentary ringside.
Ringside commentary.
This is at Quiet Cannon in Montebello.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Right. Promoted by All Star Boxing. Eddie is the matchmaker. Mm-hmm. Right. And
E-Rod.
Yo, what's that?
Eddie Rodriguez.
I don't know him that well. I can't call him that.
He's gonna make one for you. Watch.
I'm gonna make one for you.
No, it just feels. I mean, we have like this switch when we do the commentating. Like we can't. Oh, yeah. There's certain stuff that we can't say when we're doing the commentating.
Yeah, you can't say, for instance, that you have to bring ass to get ass, right? Like you can't do that on the commentating.
Yeah, that's the thing that's different about it. I know you do your show live. It's a bit different from ours because we can go back and edit it if we want. The option is there. Yeah. But when you're doing things live, it's different. You got to watch what you say.
Mm-hmm. Trust me, I wish sometimes I could go edit things out of the show. Not this one, but sometimes.
Yeah, it's a little bit more pressure.
There is.
Okay. So, like, what can you not say? Do you mean things about the fighters, or like, what is it that you can't say?
We just can't curse. We can't like.
I mean, you gotta sound professional. You can't sound like you're calling fights in the hood. Like, oh, look, that fool got socked.
I will say I've seen some broadcasts that sound like that.
Well, lately I've been saying check the pockets, right?
Check the pockets.
Check the pockets.
That's cool.
Church lock the door.
Church lock the door.
Okay, so you have to sound professional. Yeah. Obviously, you guys dress up for the event. I see you guys get dressed to the nines for the event.
How did it feel for you doing the commentating?
It's different. Yeah. So first of all, I should say thank you guys for even having me at the table on the last one. You gave me an opportunity to call. I think
we just needed a
break,
dude.
Yeah, I know. I figured it's because there's only 3 headsets and like somebody needed a restroom break or something. Yeah. So he's like, oh man, I'm gonna go get some food. Come over here and sit down and fill in. But you could have left the chair empty, and you decided to let me in, so I appreciate that. Yeah. How did it feel for me? It's not unlike this, I guess. I felt underprepared. So
really,
in a manner of speaking, and I don't know if you guys do a lot of preparation going into stuff like that, but the way I do things like here, I mean, I've got pages of notes. I've got BoxRec on the screen over here. Yeah. I mean, I look into this stuff. I do research. I watch when a fighter's coming on, for instance, I watch all of their fights, like as many as I can get my hands on, right? Because I want to be able to speak intelligently.
Yeah, exactly.
So I going into that, not really having the background and all the experience and stuff of knowing who the fighters are who are in the ring, it kind of forces you to speak generically about boxing. You know what I mean? Just like, oh, okay, like I can talk in general, like this is what I would like to see from someone with this many wins who did it, but I don't know that guy personally, right? And so it's like, so there are some things where in some ways I felt underprepared because I would have, dug into the records and like.
You want to make it personable.
Yeah, like dug into the records. I would have asked him for stories, so I could share about him, and we're, well, he came from this state and did that. Like, it turns out one of the gentlemen who was on there has a remarkable story. Yeah. Where he like moved here and then lived out of his car for a period of time and then found a boxing gym and was like doing all this. He has a remarkable story, and it's the type of thing where it's like, man, if I would have known that, I could have said something. Like you know what I mean? But you don't exactly know. So I think I felt underprepared, but I also, it's not unlike just talking about boxing like we're doing now, which is something that I can do obviously for hours on end. So it's not, I'm not discouraged by it. I don't know. What do you guys? Do you guys feel jitters still or anything?
Well,
like
Chris does a lot of you do that question survey, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do question survey just to get a little bit of feel. Obviously, like you can't capture the whole story. Like,
sure.
Like you said, you have to really put some time into it. But yeah, we do some prep work before and try to get to to the surface at least some of the some of their stories and so we do that, and that does help.
Or understanding, did you even fight as an amateur? Like, how many fights do you have, right? Like that's something that's important when you're sort of analyzing something. Like, is like, hey, did you have any amateur fights? Like maybe you had 10, maybe you had 30. Those are kind of very different people that we're talking about.
To me, like, it was not the first time I did it, but it was my second time doing it because we were able to go in the locker room and we were able to like feel that energy from the boxers. Like, you see on one corner, you see the boxers lined up trying to get paid. Okay. And then they're trying to line up what type of gloves they're going to use. And then they tell the fighters, everybody in the red corner go on that corner, everybody in the blue corner go on that side, put the curtains in the middle. So it's just like the behind the scenes, and you try to build that up and just try to like make sure, like, it's kind of like, it's a hell of experience. It's like, you're not going to get that. You got to soak it in, understand what's not at stake, but like understand what type of business you're in at the time.
Do you get nervous still? Like, Gio, like when you're going to do it, do you have butterflies or anything? Or is it just like, no, I've done this so many times now?
No, I mean, I haven't done it that many times, but the whole preparation thing, to me, I kind of like to go into it like fresh. Obviously, you want to know the records and all that stuff, but I don't write down what I'm going to say or whatever because I'd rather just do it than actually think about it.
Sure, I can totally understand that. I think for me, it's just a personality thing. Like, I like to over-prepare for things, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know this guy's amateur record. What am I going to say? You know what I mean? Which is probably something you don't really need to know to talk about.
And also, these guys are up-and-comers, so there's not that much information on a lot of them. So you can only say so much about it. Like, I'm sure if you would try to prepare for it, you have like trouble finding information. Like you have to go,
I have no doubt.
You had to go to the dressing room and ask questions if you want. He does it. He likes to do that, Christian.
Yeah. But so you guys, you're over sort of the original, or I guess I should ask, were you ever concerned about it? Was it ever like on your first appearance? Were you guys like, oh, I'm kind of like, I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. Or was it?
That's why I remember the first time he did it, he called me and I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do it. Because I'm like, first of all, I don't even consider myself a good like public speaker. And then doing live commentary, like I can know a little bit of boxing, but I'm like, to do it live and in front of these people listening to you, I was like, that's not my thing. But then I saw him do it and I was like, it's actually pretty cool.
You were like, shit, if he could do it. No.
You were trying to size him up first.
Exactly.
And I mean, obviously you're gonna get a little nervous, like, because I'm sure like just getting this started, it kind of takes a little bit of time to get warmed up, right? But once you get into it, it's like kind of comes natural.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like a lot of times people who are coming on tell me they're nervous because maybe they're fighters and they're used to being in the ring, used to doing things, but they're not used to sitting down just speaking for an hour, right? Like, it's a long time. You're like, we're gonna do this for at least an hour, right? And so a lot of times people are very nervous. But I think after 5 minutes of just talking, in this format at least, where it's like, oh, no, it's not a structured interview. We're just talking, right? Like, whatever we want to talk about, we talk about. They kind of start to, loosen up. And
when I wasn't really nervous about it because, like, this keeps me in a nice environment where I'm able to talk about anything in boxing.
Yeah.
So when I first did it, I remember we would have like in between breaks. So me and Gio were like, "Hey, what are your top 5 pound for pound? Oh, what's the top of fight?" And then that kind of like relaxes.
That kind of relaxes
the whole set.
And, you know, I think that's what actually triggered our podcast to start, because I remember one time they kept delaying the show. It was supposed to start like at 7 p.m. and it was like 8:15, and they just kept delaying it.
You guys are just talking the whole time.
No, they're telling us like, "Hey, we gotta go live because they keep delaying the show." Just I don't know, I guess just entertain the fans, just talk about boxing. So we had to do that like for 20 minutes. And then we went back.
That kind of set the tone, right? We were just like relaxed. We were just like, oh, okay.
We went back and listened to it, and we had been talking about doing some type of podcast or talk show about boxing for the longest. And then that kind of was like an example. Like, look, we just did it for 20 minutes without really knowing. So why not start the Against the Ropes podcast?
Awesome. So you guys are going to be back at it again for All Star on March 15th, here in Quiet Canyon. So you guys can tune in on Facebook Watch, and you'll hear the Against the Rope podcast crew calling the fights for All Star, promoted by Ed Holmes, matchmaker Eddie Rodriguez. You can follow them at All Star. I should look up their Instagram, actually. And for you guys, where can we follow you at?
So, Joe, you want to plug that in? Against the Ropes at Against DA Ropes.
Yeah, so you guys can follow us on Instagram at Against the Ropes, Against DA Ropes on Instagram. On YouTube, you guys can check us out on the Against the Ropes podcast. That's the channel. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And hit us up on the comment section when we're doing the live commentary. You know, Sean's going to be here with us. We're going to sit him down and be like, hey, do it again.
I'll be there. I'll be there messing with you guys on the chat from the other table.
Oh, I seen that too. I seen that last time. That's why you smirking at us. I was like, I see you.
And man, do you guys like? So you guys obviously read the chat. I know because I was chatting you guys as we were doing it.
I mean, it's difficult too because you're trying to watch the fight.
Yeah, that's true. You know, at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you guys get a lot of haters on the chat.
We get a few.
But
I think last time we only had one.
These guys?
Yeah, I think last time we only had one guy, and of course that one we're like, oh, these commentators are trash. Or I think they said it in Spanish.
Damn.
But it was only once. We're like, we're all right.
You're like, we're good.
For the most part, we do get people like, oh, they're calling it how it is. You know,
yeah.
Obviously, it's obviously boxing is subjective. So they'll say like, I think I have it for this fighter. Yeah. You know, but they're at least saying like they're bringing up their points. So
what about for the podcast? You guys get a lot of like feedback or like hateful. I noticed that like almost instantly after starting the podcast, I had people calling us idiots, like almost right away, right? Like, and maybe that's probably just me. You're probably like, no, homie, that's just a you thing. But like,
no, we got some haters too.
Oh no, you guys are idiots.
The thing is, like in boxing, again, it's subjective. Everybody's gonna have their own opinions. It's just the way you bring up your point. Obviously, if someone's gonna disagree with you, they're gonna call you out. Especially now, it's like we live in a world where anybody can just drop a comment and give their thoughts.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't even know if they actually mean it or they're just fucking around. So it's like, why pay attention to?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they mean it. No, I'm just
no, but just
at least when they're talking to me. I don't know about you guys, but when they're talking to me, they mean it. I guarantee it.
No, but in general, I think we come into the sense that people are gonna like you or they're gonna hate you. Yeah. And you have to consider that you're not gonna make everybody happy. Yeah. So just stay true to your own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I certainly don't make people happy. That's right.
That's what it is.
Especially Gio. I think I've said a few things in this podcast that we're gonna have to spar after this.
We'll talk after. Don't worry,
Sean. The way I see it, like usually,
dude, the way you just said that right now, I was like, we'll talk afterwards. You don't worry about this.
Usually, when
you don't have an option.
So Sean, usually when I hear those comments, I think to myself, they just want to be next to me and like and sit and have a debate with me and like because they want to be there.
That's a good thing about.
I could do that. Everybody, I could do that. For anybody who says I could do that, go and do it, man.
That's right.
Right? Like it's fine. Like I set this up on my own. You know what I mean? Like there's nobody. Like for people who get on and criticize my opinions and stuff like that, I don't have a problem with it. Actually, you guys you might see if you read through the comments and stuff, even when someone leaves a really negative comment, I reply to it as me. Yeah. So right now when we broadcast, we're on the Boxing Gyms channel, but I'll reply to it as me and just say like, hey, I get that you think this. Maybe we could talk about it more. Because sometimes I really just want to understand, like, what about what I said did you think was idiotic? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, which part is it? Then I can dissect it and understand.
And, that's the good thing about doing this live, that you can actually interact with the people and hear their point of view. True. That's why I was asking you, like, throughout the show, like, oh, what are they saying? Because at least you get that option. We don't really get that option because we just post it and then people can say whatever they want. And a lot of times we don't have a chance to even defend our point of view.
Dude,
So
yeah, I mean, a lot of times the fun thing about the live chat too is these cats will get going with each other. All it takes is one guy to say like, "Oh, I think so and so would win," and all of a sudden people are jumping on and talking. It's funny to watch, so I get to experience some of that stuff. Yeah, if you guys want to have a show, you could. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's therapeutic.
It's fun. Yeah.
I will say that doing the podcast does help doing the ringside commentating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because you can bounce back like what we talked about on
That's
Wednesday.
cool. Yeah. No, well, I look forward to seeing you gentlemen again. March 15th, All-Star Boxing. I'll be there in attendance. If you guys are in the Los Angeles area, you'll probably see on my Instagram. In fact, I think I've already shared it. Come out and support the local boxing community.
Yeah.
You know
Drop your comments. We'll give you a shout out.
Tell us, man. We're here from Beat the Count. We're here from Against the Ropes. We'll shout you guys out.
Yeah, we'll give it to you guys. Anyways, I think that's it. You guys good?
We're good.
All right, we're good. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here with me today.
Thanks.
Of course, you can follow me on Instagram at Beat the Count or on Facebook at Beat the Count. And that's all I got.
Hey.
All right, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you.